York City, where winners are celebrated and losers reviled, and the bright lights are never brighter than when the city's own shares center stage.
Last stop, New York. Last stop, New York, the capital of the world.
I love that walking to have another slice.
Oh, what a play!
Looking up, and it's out of here! New York, New York, the mecca of the East Coast. I love
It is high, it is far, and it's gone! Oh, my!
I'm back to win the ball game!
Yankees win!
Tonight, New York's biggest show goes national in primetime. It's Game 3 of the Subway Series, the Mets and Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball. On Friday night in Game 1 of the series, Scott Brosius' double gave the Yankees a come-from-behind 4-3 victory. Then yesterday, Tino Martinez's solo homer put the Yankees ahead in another game where they had come from behind. Then in the 7th, the Yankees bullpen shut down the heart of the Mets batting order, adding to the Mets' woes as their losing streak has now reached 8. This is the city of New York, Manhattan. But tonight, all roads and all subway stops go right here. Yankee Stadium in the South Bronx. Here it's all New York on Sunday Night Baseball. Give me your poor, give me your tired, give me your 8-game losing streak teams. Perhaps the Statue of Liberty can serve as an inspiration to the New York Mets tonight. They've tried just about everything else, including yesterday firing half of Bobby Valentine's coaching staff. Bobby Valentine himself, before the ball game, down at the batting cage, allowed us how, if the Mets don't get any better in the next 50 games or so, he fully expects that he too will be fired.
That's an interesting sign there. Steve Phillips and
Omar Minaya. Yeah, Omar Minaya, assistant general manager. And so news was made here yesterday, actually late last night. Although Steve Phillips said, Joe, that he had decided to make this change on Thursday and said even if they'd come in here and had swept the series, he still was going to make these changes. Dave Wallace is the new pitching coach. There's Mickey Brantley, the new hitting instructor, taking over for Tom Robson. And Al Jackson, who was an original New York Met back in 1962 as the new bullpen coach in place of Randy Niemann.
Let's go back to that. You said Steve Phillips said he wanted to make the changes anyway. You mean he would have made the change if they'd have won 2 games?
He said on Thursday he decided that the changes were going to be made. And he did not talk to Bobby Valentine about it. Valentine himself did not find out about it until after the game here yesterday. The Yankees, the reigning champions of the Major League Baseball world, take the field, and here is the Pepsi New York Mets batting order. Roger Cedeno, who leads the majors in stolen bases, even though he's only played about half the time in left field. Edgardo Alfonso, second base. John Olerud at first base. And Olerud has the best on-base percentage in the National League, so one way or the other, he's always on base. Mike Piazza, the catcher, hitting cleanup. Robin Ventura, the former White Sox, at third base. Brian McRae in center field. Bobby Bonilla is the designated hitter, batting 7th. Benny Agbayani from Honolulu is in right field. He's hitting real well up for the minors, and Ray Ordonez, the shortstop, is batting 9th for New York. And on the mound, the Rocket, Roger Clemens. And if you're from New England, this is going to take some getting used to. The Rocket in pinstripes, the ancient and bitter rival of the Red Sox, now possessing Roger Clemens. And of course there was a great Red Sox pitcher about 80 years ago who made that switch from Boston to New York. Of course he became a great home run hitter. Once the trade was made, that of course was the Babe. And some say, Joe, that the Red Sox have not recovered yet from losing the Babe to the Yankees. The scoreboard shows in that time, Yankees 24 World Championships, Red Sox none.
Speaking of the Babe, there is the Babe, and he was a great left-handed pitcher in his day. And Roger Clemens is the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League. He's won 5 Cy Young Awards. And he is an overpowering pitcher when he is right. And as we all know, he's coming off the disabled list, so he's not 100% healthy yet. This is the defense behind Roger. And, of course, the focal point of this defense is the middle of the diamond, and that means Derek Jeter. And you've got Jeter playing shortstop, one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball, and maybe he has the best throwing arm of any shortstop in baseball. But he just continues to improve, and he continues to amaze me. Every time I see him play, he just looks like he's better than the last time.
Well, that's what they all say about him, that he continues to work, and he has this voracious appetite to learn, to get better. Roger Clemens taking his final warm-ups, 36 years of age now. And before they took the field, Joe, after he warmed up in the bullpen, he was invoking some of that Babe Ruth Monument Park karma.
Well, maybe he's doing that because, you know, he knows what the Babe meant to Boston, and he came from Boston here to New York. They kind of kinship there.
Oh, he and the Babe have that. Definitely, they have that in common. And of course, great things began for the Yankees when the Babe got here so many years ago. For Roger Clemens, the one goal, you mentioned all of those Cy Young awards, all of the greatness that Clemens has brought to the teams he's been with, but the one goal that has eluded him, Clemens has never won that World Series ring. And he's hoping to change all of that with New York this year. So here we go, the Yankees and the Mets. Clemens with a 95-mile-an-hour heater for a called strike to Roger Cedeno, the former Los Angeles Dodger. A trade that didn't get a whole lot of publicity, but for Cedeno's part in it, but he's hitting .321 and leading the majors in steals as he bluffs the bunt. And Joe, I mean, Ricky Henderson went on the disabled list for a while. Cedeno's playing time increased, and in the last 28 games that he's played, he has stolen 25 bases in 28 games.
Well, they need some speed because the middle of their lineup is very slow. So you have to add some speed at the top. There's Ricky Henderson. He's sitting out tonight's ball game. He's got a few aches and pains.
The bunt is fouled. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Yankee Stadium is all filled up. The first 2 games played before around 56,000 each one, Friday night and then yesterday afternoon. And this big ballpark of the Bronx, which has played host to more major games, championship games, World Series games than any other, has been rocking all weekend. And Clemens with the splitter strikes him out. Also with us tonight is Rich Eisen. Rich.
All right, John. Well, I am in section 39 with the bleacher creatures who chant the names of the Yankees until they acknowledge them. And I think I've set it up where they're chanting Scott Brocious. No, I think I've set it up where they might actually chant 2 other names. John Miller and John Toy! Well, we got half of it, John. Back to John and Joe Morgan.
All right, thanks, Rich. And Joe, they don't like you here.
No, I don't.
They haven't forgiven you for 76 yet.
Yeah, I don't blame them, and I'm glad.
They haven't forgiven Joe, and Joe says, good. Joe's Reds came in here in 76 and showed them no mercy. Here's Edgardo Alfonso, and that's the ball outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Alfonso moving over to second base this year, done a great job. He's hitting well, and he's fielding well. He's an outstanding hit and run man. 1 ball, 1 strike. Oh, man. That exploded.
John, when I look at this New York Mets lineup, potentially they have a very good lineup. Speed with Cedeno or Ricky Henderson. Edgardo Alfonso, perfect #2 hitter. Olerud, Piazza, Ventura, all good RBI men. So they potentially have a very good offensive lineup. They just have not been consistent.
1-2 the count. He laid off that high fastball. 2-2. Well, they've hit well. Right up at the top of the National League for batting average, but that is not translated into runs.
Well, they're not hitting well with runners in scoring position.
Leading the league in on base average, but look at that. Down at the bottom with men in scoring position. Bernie Williams is going back a long way. Out number 2.
No.
Now John Olerud. Olerud having another outstanding beginning to his season for the Mets. .333 average, 9 homers, 18 doubles, 38 runs batted in. Olerud came into the day 9th in the National League for batting average. 2 down, nobody on.
And it's interesting because he's a good left-handed hitter, but he has not had much success against Roger Clemens. And he's faced him quite often in the American League.
A couple of former American leaguers. And that has sinking action to it to the outside.
That's what Roger will do. He throws the riding fastball, which he throws up and in, and that was, we clocked at 95 miles an hour. He turns that one over, and that's 92 miles an hour.
1-1. And a changeup at the knees. Strike 2. Well, now he's what are you looking for if you're Olerud?
Well, that's a difficult pitch right there. It started off the plate inside and was splittered. It moved back on the inside corner.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 down. The fastball got him looking. And the Rocket with 2 strikeouts is just past Ferguson Jenkins for 9th place all time in strikeouts. Yankees coming up. Stadium, New York, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, and the big ballpark in the Bronx, as Reggie Jackson used to call it, is filled up tonight, and we could hear the huge ovations for Clemens in the first inning. Mets fans, we're yet to hear from them, and to make no mistake, there'll be plenty of them here. Joe Torre back, the manager after his cancer surgery, and here's the Pepsi batting order is turned in by Joe. It'll be Chuck Knobloch at second base. Derek Jeter is the shortstop, batting second. Paul O'Neill is in right field, and he's been slumping compared to what Paul O'Neill is used to doing. Bernie Williams hits cleanup in center. Chili Davis, the designated hitter. Tino Martinez at first, hitting 6th. Scott Brocious at 3rd. Shane Spencer in left. Joe Girardi is the catcher, batting 9th. And on the mound for the Mets, a 17-game winner from a year ago, a New York area native, Al Leiter, but he's been struggling this year.
Well, Leiter was supposed to be their ace, and he's had a knee problem, and he has struggled most of the season. And he goes into high pitch counts, and the Yankees will take advantage of that. He needs to be able to throw strikes. He has a good tailing fastball. He throws a cutting fastball, a cutter that moves in on the right-handers, and he has a good changeup.
Chuck Knobloch. Fastball is in there for a called strike. Al Leiter from Central Regional High School in Bayville, New Jersey. A basketball, football, and track star there. And he led his baseball team to the state championship. Too far in. Now he throws, as you mentioned, Joe, a good cutter, and he'll jam these right-handers all night long.
Well, that's what he'll try to do, but I think the Yankees are a patient group of hitters, and I think that they will lay off that pitch. He's going to have to make it almost a strike in order to get them to chase it.
1 ball, 1 strike. Broken bat into the hole at short. Ray Ordonez. Bounced is the throw, but Olerud picks it off, and there is 1 away.
I'll tell you what, Ordonez, I mean, this is a good by shortstop. Watch. Because Knobloch runs well, he doesn't want to take the time. As you see, Ordonez is the shortstop. And what you'll see here is that, now watch how he makes the play. Knobloch runs well. Now he'll catch the ball in position to throw it. See, he just throws it from there. He doesn't take an extra step. And he gets a little help from Olerud at first base, but first baseman should make that play 99% of the time.
It's a little short hop.
A little short hop, nothing to it. So,
as a former middle infielder, that's just his job.
That's his job.
You bounce one over there, he's supposed to get that.
That's why he has such a big glove.
Here's Derek Jeter. Mike Piazza has graciously agreed to wear mask cam for us tonight to put our viewers right down in the home plate area. Here's the look as Leiter delivers. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I think if you're going to pitch to Derek Jeter, you have to throw him a lot of pitches out of the strike zone. He's a very aggressive hitter, although he's walked more this year than ever before. But he's also a guy that he's aggressive, and you have to take advantage of his aggressiveness. I mean, can you imagine he's been on base in every single game that they have played this year?
Keeping the ball in on the hands. That one missed. Ball 2. Now Jeter has really made it a priority to work on his patience this year, and he has walked 36 times in the top 10 in the league for walks. That is right to third baseman Robin Ventura. And Ventura, who's played here many times in all of his years with the White Sox in the American League, throws out Jeter. 2 men gone in the first inning.
I was talking about the Mets having a pretty good ball club. I mean, they're really good defensively on the infield. They're not as good in the outfield defensively, but I mean, you've got Ventura, who's won a Gold Glove. You've got Ordonez, who's won a Gold Glove, and Alfonso's a very good first baseman. Second baseman. Olaru's a good first baseman. So this is not a bad ball club. I mean, you know, they've got some pluses on their side.
Paul O'Neill, and the slider outside and low for ball 1. Well, some scouts will tell you that they have the best infield defense in the National League, and they have not made many errors, fewest in the National League. Alfonso over at second. He made the move from third base, and he was one of the best third basemen defensively in the National League. Had no problems about making that move, and he's done extremely well at second. Robin Ventura, of course, won some Gold Gloves in the American League with the White Sox. And they all, by the way, on both teams are united in their praise of this Yankee Stadium infield. I mean, a few years back, people really criticized this infield, but now they're saying it's one of the best. O'Neill off his foot. 1 ball and 2 strikes. That hurt. Yankee Stadium, South Bronx, and there's the subway stop just outside beyond center field here at Yankee Stadium. In the old days, you used to be able to see the subway cars going by. I think, Joe, as you were telling me off the air, that's the 4 train.
Oh, yeah, that's 4.
That's our favorite.
Yeah, that'll take you where you want to go.
Well, right now, sorry, guys, go ahead without us. We want to be here. 2 down, nobody out. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2.
And so far in this ball game, Leiter has been able to throw strikes to both Knobloch and Jeter, and he got out in front of O'Neill. So he had a real nice hop to his step when he went out to the mound. He kind of ran out there and gave it a little jump when he went to the mound. I think he's ready for tonight's game.
Strike 3 called on the outside corner, and O'Neill didn't think so. So an impressive first inning on both sides for Leiter and Clemens. Mike Piazza coming up when we return. This must be New York. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Gum Out from Yankee Stadium. The Mets nothing, Yankees nothing. We start the second, and Mike Piazza, the Mets perennial all-star catcher, leads it off. 318 average. Clemens misses outside, ball 1. Piazza this weekend playing at Yankee Stadium for the first time in his career. He'd never done more than drive past this venerable old ballpark until this weekend. Center field, Bernie Williams going back, still going back, and it's over his head. I think it surprised him. And Piazza will stand at second with a double.
John, the reason it surprised him because it was such a low pitch, he didn't think he could drive it like that. But Piazza went down and got it. It was probably out of the strike zone, and he had a line drive right over Bernie Williams' head. But he did not get a good jump on it.
He started to move back as though it were just going to be a routine play.
Now watch where the pitch is. Down below the knees, out of the strike zone. I mean, he drilled it, but it's more of a line drive, and Bernie didn't have time to get back.
So Piazza at second, and here is Robin Ventura. He's been the Mets RBI leader. Now this is the kind of a situation where the Mets have been struggling. That .273 team batting average, very good, but with men in scoring position, .244, very bad. That's a base hit. Piazza has very little speed, and O'Neill, realizing that, in no particular hurry to field it. Piazza to third and holding. Runners at first and third. Nobody out for the Mets.
Well, Piazza and just about every Met is wearing a knee brace. I mean, he's got problems with his knee. He was out early in the season for a while with his knee, so he's not running that well. And there you see on his right knee, he's wearing a sleeve. And there's a line shot to right field. Been very difficult for anyone to score on that because you had to wait till it goes through the infield. And Paul O'Neill playing shallow out there in right field would have had a shot. Good job by Ventura just to make sure he pulled the ball.
Mets have a lot of experience, and here's another one of them. Veteran Brian McRae takes ball one. McRae, another guy who used to play in the American League. No score, but the Mets with the first great scoring opportunity of the game.
And Brian McRae is the one guy on the Mets that has hit Clemens well.
It's going to be back into the second level of Yankee Stadium. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He has a lifetime average of .313 against Clemens.
Brian McRae been critical of Bobby Valentine publicly earlier this week. Right now the Mets are trying to rotate 5 outfielders in the 3 outfield spots. McRae's complaint is, number 1, that he'd like to be in there every day, of course, but number 2, he'd like to know if he's going to play the next day or not.
And I've talked to a lot of the players over there as well, and I think the biggest problem has been communication. And I think maybe that's what Bobby needs to make sure that he works on. I mean, the rest of the season, make sure that he communicates, especially with your veterans. Your veteran guys are the ones that you need to communicate with.
2 balls and a strike, and Clemens with that double fake. Straight at first, nobody was fooled. Bobby Bonilla, as you saw, is on deck. Piazza at third base. Ventura at first. Boom. 2-2.
Well, there's no doubt Roger's throwing the ball well. That's 94 miles an hour, but it had a lot of movement on it. His pitches are moving well. But as I said, the Mets have some pretty good hitters. That ball really moves away from McRae, and it's also at 94 miles an hour. You do not have a lot of time to make up your mind on whether you're going to swing at it or not.
And he did manage to lay off that one. Clemens went higher still, but McRae managed to abstain. 3-2 the count.
Not a good hit and run situation if you're the Mets, because you have Ventura at first, doesn't run that well, and you have McRae at the plate who will strike out quite often. So not a time that you would want to put a hit and run on with a strikeout pitcher like Clemens on the mound.
Nobody out. Yankees middle infield, double play deck.
When you lost 8 in a row, you might try anything.
Well, he doesn't go, and the ball is fouled into the upper deck.
And maybe that's the point. When you've lost 8 games in a row playing normally the way you play under other circumstances, maybe it's time to make some changes. But I still think this is not a good situation if you're the Mets to try hit and run or to put the runner in motion.
Wrong runner at first base,
right.
Wrong hitter, and also the wrong pitcher.
Right.
High risk if you run here. Not enough things in your favor if you're Bobby Valentine. Now that I've explained all that, I'm sure he's going. Come on, Robin. What are you standing around for? Let's go. Make something happen. 3-2 the count. He's not running. And that is ball 4.
That was good patience there from McRae, because that pitch started like it was going to be in the strike zone and sunk down and out of the strike zone, and McRae was able to lay off of it.
Now Bobby Bonilla, who grew up here in the Bronx. His second tour with the Mets. Both Bonilla and McRae, according to the New York Times, were recently placed on irrevocable waivers by the Mets. Bonilla, for his part, was not pleased to hear about it. That one is hammered foul down the right field line and into the crowd. I say hammered, but he didn't hit it all that hard, as it turns out. And Bonilla is in the worst streak in these kinds of situations of his whole career. He had a bad knee problem. Finally, as he tried to play through it, they put him on the disabled list. He says he's fully healthy now, but he has not yet got it really going the way Bonilla has over the years. And there's a lot of reports that Steve Phillips tried very hard to trade him to almost anybody who'd have him.
Well, in Bobby's defense, I mean, he says he's only had 87 at bats, which is right, and he says he likes to be judged on 600 at bats, not 80 at bats. But maybe we'll not get 600 at bats this year.
Piazza, Ventura, and McRae, the base runners. Nobody out. 2 strikes to count to Bonilla.
Roger Roger thought he had it. Girardi thought he had it. And, well, let's take a look at this pitch. Well, you can see that it could have been low and it could have been outside, but tough pitch to take. Definitely off the plate outside, I guess.
I think Girardi was trying to steal one with 2 strikes. Missed badly with that one. 2-2. Now Girardi's going to go out and talk to Clemens.
Well, you can notice they're trying to stay away from down and in to Bonilla. If you're going to go down and in, you need to go off speed. You will try not to throw him a lot of fastballs down and in.
Well, Bonilla played all last year hurt, starting with Florida and then ending up with the Dodgers. The year before, even though he was hurt the last part of the season, had a very good year up in the Marlins, win the World Series. That misses. And Roger real close.
Well, Roger threw a breaking ball there, threw a fastball away. You see he's shaking his head. He thought this pitch was a strike, but you can see Girardi does pull the ball down.
Well, now it's gone to 3-2. That one is a fair ball, and it is an automatic double. It bounced in and out of the crowd, so 2 runs will score. And it is 2-0 New York. Bobby Bonilla breaking his worst drought after 14 years in the majors, his worst drought in terms of driving in runners from scoring position with that double.
Well, I said you want to stay away from down and in and watch where this pitch is. Down and in, and that's the pitch that he can really hammer, and he does. He rips it down the right field line for an extra base hit. And you can see the ball touch one of the fans down the right field line. I don't think McRae would have been able to score anyway if the ball wouldn't have hit the fan. It would have been a double.
Now Benny Agbayani from Honolulu, Hawaii. The slider is in the dirt for ball 1. I've seen games here where when a fan reached over the railing to interfere with the ball in play, an umpire on that part of the ballpark, because it'll ricochet right to the outfielder, rule a single on the fan interference. So yeah, the Mets might have gotten a little bit of a break, and it was over the wall and hit the fan out of play, because that's an automatic double.
Yeah, if it goes into the seats and he touches it.
They have a sort of a unique configuration here. There are very few ballparks where the stands jut out so close to the foul line, so close to the bases at first and third. So the Mets have 2 runs home, and they are thinking big inning right now. Agbayani, a hot hitter up in the minors. Just inside. And then the strike zone is starting to look real small if you're Roger Clemens.
Well, Roger believes that a couple of pitches have been called balls that are strikes, but you watch Girardi, he pulled a couple of them that tells you that they were not in the strike zone. So you can usually tell by what the catcher does with the pitch.
And Clemens misses again with the hard slider. 3-1 the count. Agbayani, by the way, is hitting 8th in the order, but his average is .411. He's one of the guys that kind of complicated things here after Bonilla and Henderson went down with injury. He got up and he was extremely hot. Broken back, base hit, right field. McRae scores. Here comes Bonilla. O'Neill cut off by Martinez. A 4-run rally for the Mets, and still nobody out in the second.
Well, I'm surprised that Bonilla scored, because it appeared to me that the third base coach was trying to stop him. But you call that a broken bat hit, and it was, John, but it was good hitting by Agbayani. Now watch him. This pitch, a breaking ball away. He's going that way. See, he's not trying to pull the ball. He was going to right field, so it's good hitting. The bat probably just shattered, not because it was off the end of the bat. It just broke. But that was good hitting there by Agbayani, and he gets 2 runners home. And I was right. He did run through a stop sign.
I don't think it's a good time to be a Met coach. And he made the look wrong. Swing! Agbayani on the first pitch after the 2-run single adds injury to his insult with the stolen base as Ray Ordonez stands in.
The reason that Rojas was trying to stop him at third was simply because there were no outs. And he gets a great jump on Roger. normally your better pitchers do not hold runners really well. And Roger, no exception in that case.
Well, I don't know, Joe. 3 coaches last night. Who knows what's going to happen next with these Mets? Ray Ordonez, the hitter, trying to get Agbayani to third base now, and he bunts it. He has done it. Clemens, Patino. That is the first out of the inning. So Agbayani to third.
John, if you score 4 runs in the second inning off of Roger Clemens, you're not going to get fired very quickly.
Well, that, no matter what managers or coaches end up being fired, is always the bottom line. If the players start hitting, they start pitching, then everybody is going to keep their job.
Yeah, everything looks good when you're winning.
And how about the new hitting instructor? What an incredible job he's doing.
He's done a great job. He got Bobby Bonilla out of his 0 for 20 with runners in scoring position slump.
Who knew that this would pay off such incredible dividends so quickly? Mickey Bradley, one-time Seattle Mariner, now the hitting instructor, replacing Tom Robson. Here's Roger Clemens, the leadoff man, and the Yankees in the second inning bring the infield in, trailing 4-0 already. 1 ball and no strikes. Benny Agbayani, the runner at third base, the pride of St. Louis High School in Honolulu, Hawaii. And he was all-state in Hawaii in baseball, football, and soccer. He went to Oregon Tech in Oregon to play wide receiver, and then transferred back to Hawaii Pacific University. Benny Agbayani. I mean, this guy just been something else. Up from the minors, but because he's done so well, Roger Clemens has done so well, it's complicated that Mets outfield picture considerably. Not that they would have preferred that they didn't do well, but and what just that they didn't just do adequately. I mean, they've been playing like stars, and when the veterans got back, Bonilla and Ricky Henderson, the question became, wow, how can we sit these guys? I mean, Cedeno's leading the majors in steals. It is 3-0. Agbayani has 6 homers and 12 RBIs, and he's only had 57 at-bats in the big leagues this year. First time I've ever seen him, Joe, and I love it. What a player. I'm hoping that his family will invite you and me to Honolulu this winter. 3-0 the count. And it's a 4-pitch walk to Cedeno. Now, there's a setup where we would be surprised if there wasn't some running going on. As Mel Stottlemyre, the Yankee pitching coach, is going to go to the mound. Roger Clemens, who's won 20 consecutive games, but down by 4 tonight. Carl Hubble here in New York with the New York Giants over a 2-year period has the major league record with 24 consecutive wins. And then Elroy Face did that as a relief pitcher. And Joe, I mean, he vultured some of those, let's face it. Then Roger Clemens with 20, and Rube Marquardt way back when, in the old days of the Philadelphia Athletics, had 20 in a row.
Well, there was a time just before he went on the disabled list where Roger gave up 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and he still got off the hook. So the fact that he's given up 4 here in the second inning doesn't mean that that winning streak is coming to an end.
The Yankees are certainly a very potent offense, and they have come from behind in each of the first 2 games of this series to win. Well, Roger Clemens, 20 wins and no losses and 10 no decisions. He'd been removed from games in that time 5 times with a tie score. He once left a game with a 1-run lead, and 4 times he's left a game with the Yankees trailing by 1 run. There's only 1 time where he's left a ball game with the Yankees trailing by more than that, and that was this year, the game you're talking about, April 27th at Texas. He was trailing 5-0. But the Yankees came back at 176, so he did not get the loss.
Well, they've averaged 6 runs a game in his start, so.
Cedeno at first, and Agbayani at third. Clemens bluffing toward Agbayani. Well, now Cedeno had been something. 30 steals. He's only been caught 4 times.
Well, when he was with the Dodgers, he always had potential, but he's had a chance to show what he's learned in the last couple of years here in New York.
And he is just back in time. Man, that was close.
Well, he's getting a very big lead at first base. And I think you see Ricky Henderson probably saying shorten your lead. Yeah, that's what he's saying. He had a big lead. I saw that. Had a very big lead at first base.
Cedeno seeing Roger Clemens for the first time. That's a huge lead. Again, very close.
Well, Maury Wills always said you do not have a big enough lead if you do not have to dive back.
Well, Cedeno's testing that theory.
But it's also a problem if you get too far out there where you're worried about getting back and you start to lean back. So what you need to do is get a big enough lead where you're comfortable in your ability to go either way.
Again, Cedeno, 25 steals in the last 28 games that he's played in. Clemens looked like he tried that curveball, Joe, that Sandy Koufax caught him. 1 ball to no strikes. You know, he has really labored. I mean, 28 pitches in this inning, 3 throws to first, and does not have that sharp control.
Well, he's had a good fastball. You see that ball's just spinning. Didn't really break.
There goes Cedeno, but the ball is popped up. Cedeno's all the way to second base. Tino's got it. Clemens covering. Double play. And just like that, the side is retired. Cedeno took off, and as Ricky Henderson said, he was out there too far. And Sunday Night Baseball from Yankee Stadium, New York. John Miller and Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. And the Mets have jumped out to a 4-0 lead, although it could have been more. Let's take a look at what happened at the end of the inning.
Well, this is obviously a straight steal. You see, he doesn't look in to see where the ball is. He actually just got so far down near second base that he wasn't able to get back. The ball wasn't popped that high, but you could hear Bobby Valentine yelling, "Get back." But that was a straight steal. On a hit and run, you look in to see where the ball is. But he definitely was just going on a straight steal. But you still have to know where the ball is.
Well, Bobby Valentine, we appreciate the fact that he has agreed to wear the microphone tonight. To take our Sunday Night Baseball viewers deeper inside the game. The Yanks now are down by 4. So Al Leiter's set up real well. He's been struggling. He had a great first inning. Now his club has given him a big early lead. And the stars are starting to look in alignment. But it's only the second inning, and the New York Yankees aren't, after all, the champions of the world. They were down 3-0 yesterday and won 6-3. They were trailing on Friday, and they won 4-3.
And he looks like a different pitcher. Maybe he sat over there too long. The first 2 pitches here in this inning, not even close to the strike zone, and he was in front of every hitter in the first inning.
From Mascan. Ball really moves in, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was more of a slider than a cutter, but
and that one called a strike. 2-1. John Shulak, the plate umpire. Dale Scott at first. Joe Brinkman at second. Darrell Cousins umpiring at third. Bernie Williams signed a big, long new contract with the Yanks during the offseason. He's badly outside with it. 3-1. And Bernie has not really gotten it cooking yet this year. Not hitting for power, but on the other hand, his average for the year is .343.
and he has much more power. He has more power from the right side than he does the left side. Much better hitter from this side.
That's dribbled foul off the hands. We're seeing the view from Mascan being worn by Mike Piazza tonight. Basically almost seeing it the way Piazza's seeing it there. Piazza started that 4-run rally with a double over the head of Bernie Williams. And even then, Joe, a 4-run rally, something to celebrate, except it could well have been more. When he pops it up back to first. Olerud going down the line, makes the catch. Nice play. Let's go to our colleague Rich Eisen.
All right, John, thanks very much. I'm with the man in this town on the hot seat more than Rudolph Giuliani, general manager of the Mets, Steve Phillips. Steve, what did you hope to accomplish by letting go of the 3 coaches last night?
Well, we've been struggling. I think at 27 and 28, we're certainly underachieving as a team, and we thought we needed to make some changes. Our pitching has struggled. Our 5 starters have an ERA over 5, and we thought we needed to do something to make a change. We have Dave Wallace. We put him in place, and we haven't been hitting with runners in scoring position, and thought we needed to make a change there too, and hopefully it's going to help us.
But these were more than just coaches. These were aides de camp of Bobby Valentine, the manager of this team. So what can we read into Bobby V's future with the Mets with the moves that you made last night?
Well, I wouldn't read anything into it. I think that I made these decisions exclusive of Bobby and really isolated to these areas. I think that we need to affect some change there, and I think Bobby can manage the team, and he's going to pull it together with his coaching staff.
We can assume Bobby wasn't too pleased to hear the news that some of his coaches were being let go.
Well, if it were left up to Bobby's decision, he would not have made the same decision. But you know, I'm ultimately responsible for how we produce and what we do with this investment that the owners have made, and in my view, we need to make the change.
Well, you're sitting out here in plain sight. You receiving any grief here in the stands from any Yankee fans?
Well, it's part of being in New York. You get grief whether your team's playing well or not, but so far everybody's been behaved.
All right, back up to the safety of the booth, John.
Thanks, Rich. Some good questions he asked.
Well, the one thing that I would also question is he pointed out that the starters had not been pitching well, and that's true, but the bullpen had been pitching well. So half of Apodaca's job was being done properly, and the starters, I mean, they've had injuries. Rick Reed, Al Leiter, Bobby Jones. I mean, they've all been injured. I mean, and they were your key starters for the season, but again, he has the right to make those decisions, and I think the good point he made is that he's ultimately responsible for the investment that, you know, the ownership has made in this ball club.
Alan Watson has been kind of a swing man. Bobby Jones on the disabled list right now. Leiter sat out for 10 days at one point. Chili Davis off the glove of Leiter, and I think he made that a base hit. Had he not touched it at all, the magician Ordonez might have been able to work his magic. Scored a base hit.
Well, Leiter jams Chili Davis. He throws that cutter in on his hands, but you see Leiter actually just casually went over like he was going to be able to make the play, and there's a kick save by Ordonez once it gets to him. But Chili Davis does get a base hit. That's the first base hit of the ball game for the Yankees.
Now Tino Martinez. Tino Martinez, who hit a home run here yesterday in the 4th inning against Masato Yoshii to break a 3-3 tie. 4-0 the score. It's going outside for ball 1. 4-0 New York Mets leading the New York Yankees. And Joe, the last time you and I were here was to broadcast the World Series on ESPN Radio, and the San Diego Padres could not hold these kinds of leads against the Yankees last year.
Well, last year the Yankees were, averaging 1 more run per game anyway than they are this year. They were a much more awesome ball club last year. As we pointed out, Paul O'Neill, some of the other hitters aren't.
That one at short. Ordonez for 1 to first. 2 double play. And the side is retired. The Mets trying to snap an 8-game losing streak. The big ballpark in the Bronx. Olerud, Piazza, Ventura, the big guns coming up. Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York. And the New York Mets are coming up with their big hitters against Clemens here in the 3rd, having already put 4 runs on the board in the 2nd. John Olerud, then Piazza and Ventura against Roger Clemens. Olerud struck out looking his first time. Olerud, who lives in Manhattan during the baseball season with his wife and their young child, born last September. And you wouldn't have figured in Olerud's day in Toronto that he'd be a Manhattan kind of a guy, but he loves it. And that changeup misses. 2 balls and a strike. Now, had Roger Clemens managed not to get doubled up to win the previous inning. Olerud would have come up. Then Piazza behind him. The Mets might not have stopped at just 4 runs in that first inning. So the Mets hurt themselves. Cedeno with the base running mistake, getting doubled up on that play. He's a young guy, still learning. That's a mistake, and the Mets will hope that he'll learn from it and it'll never happen again. And that's a base hit for Olerud.
I'm sure Roger Clemens has had some success turning the ball over against Olerud, and Olerud was looking for this pitch his last at bat, fastball in and up, and he rips it to right field. Clemens struck him out with a fastball away in his first at bat.
Mike Piazza. Olerud, by the way, last year hit .354 for the whole year. Piazza high and foul off to the right, way up into the upper deck. Piazza led off that 4-run second inning with a double over the head of Bernie Williams in center. Piazza, there was an article in the New York Post on Thursday where Piazza revealed that he had actually had a dream about these games at Yankee Stadium. In the dream, his team's down by a run in the ninth, and he comes up and hits a 2-run homer. But then he awakens from the dream before he finds out how the game itself actually turned out in the bottom of the ninth.
But in reality, yesterday he struck out in that situation.
Mighty Piazza struck out. No joy at Shea. In Yankee Stadium last year, of course, Sunday Night Baseball saw the Yankees and Mets over at Shea. This year at the big ballpark in the Bronx, the famous facade which now adorns the outfield area. Famous characteristic of this ballpark, which opened for business back in 1924. Piazza hits one deep into Death Valley, way back there. Williams going back. This one is gone into the bullpen, and Mike Piazza has hit that Yankee Stadium homer. 6-0 Mets.
This was supposed to be a splitter down, but he didn't get it down, and Piazza puts a charge into it. That's a splitter, and it just kind of stays right there. And I mean, he ripped it. Piazza very strong.
Well, this ballpark is deeper into that area than any other ballpark in the majors. So if you hit one out into Death Valley at Yankee Stadium, you earned it. As Robin Ventura takes a strike. 10th home run for Mike Piazza. 6-0. The Mets are leading. Base hit. He hung the curveball. Ventura is 2 for 2.
You know, I have to tell you, I don't think I've seen anyone get ripped like this when they're throwing the ball as well as Roger is. I mean, Roger's throwing 95 miles an hour. He's got pretty good movement on his pitches. But every once in a while he makes a mistake, as he did to Piazza. He had 2 strikes on him, hung a splitter. Now he hangs a curveball to Ventura, but he's actually throwing the ball pretty well. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, this is a pretty good hitting ball club the Mets have.
Now Brian McRae walked his first time in the dirt for ball 1. Bobby Bonilla on deck. Well, the Mets had their first 5 hitters in the second inning reach base in their 4-run rally, and now the first 3 hitters of the 3rd inning have reached base. The Yankee bullpen is getting busy now as Clemens continues to struggle. Back to Clemens, not hit very hard. He'll go to first with it. As Ventura moves up to second, there is 1 away. McRae walked his first time is gone, and now Bobby Bonilla will come up. Todd Erdos, the right-hander. Todd Erdos, E-R-D-O-S, warming up in the bullpen. Yankees pretty much the same ball club in many respects as the one that won so many games last year, 114 in the regular season. But where they're really different is that bullpen. Familiar names are missing right now. Bobby Bonilla drove in the first 2 runs of the game with a bases loaded double. Takes a strike on the outside.
And you can make sure, you can rest assured that he'll stay away from that down and in pitch to Bobby Bonilla. He may bounce one down and in, but he will not give him a pitch to hit down and in again.
He came in there, and Bonilla lost it foul into the upper deck on the first base side.
Well, they tried to pitch him in the first time. You can come in, you just better not go down and in.
Down and in,
Yeah,
bad.
bad. Most left-handed hitters are very good on pitches down and in, and Bobby very good.
Down and into Bobby Bonilla. Boom.
A no-no.
Yeah. Bonilla, 283 lifetime hitter. In the dirt for a ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Bonilla in his last really fully healthy year with Baltimore in '96 had 28 homers and 116 RBIs. Then he went back with his old skipper Jim Leland in Miami 2 years ago and hit 297 with 96 RBIs, even though he was hurt much of that year. I remember him limping around throughout the World Series. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And the splitter. That one gets away from Girardi. Girardi, after making sure that Ventura was not taking liberties, throws out Bonilla.
Well, that's what you do to a hitter. If you get a hit of him with 2 strikes, you can get him to chase the splitter in the dirt. Roger has not been able to do that often tonight.
Now Benny Agbayani. Well, you know, Joe, it's interesting the debate that goes on in these interleague games. American League teams feel that they're at a disadvantage when they National League Park because they can't use the DH, which is for most American League teams is a top hitter like a Chili Davis for the Yankees. On the other hand, their pitchers have to bat and they never bat. When the National League team comes to the American League Park, you could make a case, for instance, for the Mets tonight. They got 5 outfielders and 3 outfield spots. Well, they can DH one of them.
This is definitely their best ball club that they have on the field tonight.
That's a strike with a sinker. 1 ball, 1 strike. Now, later on in July, the Yankees will have to play at Shea. Chili Davis probably won't be able to play unless he plays first base. Ventura at second. That one is into left field, a base hit. Here comes Ventura. The throw by Spencer. 2. And over to second base goes Agbayani. Aloha, mahalo nui loa. The pride of Honolulu is lighting it up at Yankee Stadium, New York.
Well, he got a breaking ball away and he hit it to right field, so Roger definitely wasn't going to give him an opportunity to do that again. But Agbayani adjusts and pulls the ball in the hole to left field.
So it is 7-0. And Roger Clemens with one of his earliest exits. Benny Agbayani knocks him out of the box. The Mets leading 7-0 is Todd Erdos on in long relief. And I think the last thing Joe Torre would ever have thought on this night as he was coming to the ballpark was who would be working in long relief. With Roger Clemens out there, this kind of stuff just does not often happen. So Clemens, with one of his worst beatings of his long career, gives up 7 runs and 8 hits in 2 2/3 innings. And now Erdos will come on and try and keep it from getting worse. And Clemens, a few moments ago, leaving the field and heading off.
7 earned runs, only 3 strikeouts, but he struck out 3 in 2 2/3 innings. I thought he was throwing the ball well. His location hurt him a lot, but he had good stuff, especially in the first couple of innings.
Well, Joe, just before he went on the disabled list, and when he was actually bothered by the hamstring muscle that was pulled, he gave up 5 runs in 2 innings. and left trailing 5-0. But the Yankees came back and took him off the hook, as we mentioned earlier. Ray Ordonez, the hitter, with Agbayani at second base. 7-0. The Mets are leading. Erdos misses high and away, ball 1. Benny Agbayani. Now, in his last 4 games started before tonight, he had homered in 3 of them, including a 2-homer game against the Milwaukee Brewers. Benny Agbayani. Now 19 hits in his last 37 at-bats in the last 12 games he started. Who is this guy?
Well, it sounds like you have to find a spot for him. At least until he cools off.
Well, this is a game of performance. Roger Clemens was performing. Benny Agbayani was performing. And let's face it, if you're the Mets, not only are they helping you win ball games, but they're your future. And if you're Bobby Valentine, you may figure they're your future in particular. 3-0 to Ordonez. This has got to be one of the few 4-pitch walks in the young career of Ray Ordonez, who does not often walk. Roger Clemens with a 20-game winning streak. The longest in American League history. Carl Hubble of the old New York Giants in the National League has the longest. Delroy Face, who is a reliever, almost really in a different category. So Clemens' long winning streak is definitely in jeopardy right now, as it was against Texas back in late April. The batter, Roger Clemens, 2 on, 2 out, and Erdos gets his first strike. It's coming in.
Well, if you're Roger Clemens, the Yankees have averaged 6 runs in your starts, but not 7. So he's given up 7. It doesn't look very good for him tonight.
Cedeno has struck out and walked. Pretty good. 1 ball, 1 strike. Clemens had only 1 time in his last 30 starts during that 20-game losing streak been taken out of a game where he was behind by more than 1 run. And tonight is the 2nd time that has happened. So there's certainly an element of luck involved. Carl Hubble, when he had the 24-game winning streak, 3 of those victories came as a relief pitcher. Hubble not only was the Giants' best starter, he was their best reliever.
Well, to have any kind of a winning streak or a hitting streak, you have to be lucky and good.
That is a called strike on the inside, 2-2. Hubble, and the game was played differently at that time. This was back in the mid-1930s. Hubble, of the 21 starts that he won, only made 22 starts in that stretch, and he won 21 of them. Had 1 no decision. Wow. He's not getting that call on the inside pitch. 3-2. Agbayani at second base. Ordonez at first. He'll be off and running here. 2 down in the 3rd inning. The Mets already with 7 runs on the board. The runners take off. Struck him out. Cedeno goes down. For the 2nd inning in a row, 8 men back. The Mets are leading 7-0 after 2.5. It's just the 7th place hitter for the Yankees, batting for the first time. The Mets leadoff hitter, Roger Clemens, has already been to the plate 3 times. And back to the screen. We're not yet completely through. The Yankees line up 1 time. The Mets have a 7-0 lead.
And of course, last year, Brocious at the bottom of the order was a real key figure for the Yankees. And in this latest run where they've been playing well, he has been hitting well again. He's the guy that I think he's a very key figure in this Yankee ball club, because with Chili Davis hitting 6th.
1-1 the count. 3-1.
You get a lot of opportunities down lower in the batting order to drive in runs. And he did a great job with that last year.
Brocious, the MVP of the 1998 World Series. Ordonez. Nobody does it quite the way Ordonez does it. One away.
Well, he plays a position differently than anyone that I've ever seen. I mean, that play there, I mean, is not the way that your regular shortstop makes it. Now, you wonder why he slides down there. Well, maybe he just wants to stop his momentum, and he gets up and throws a strike to first base. It wasn't a play where he didn't dive. He actually slides into it, gets up, and makes the throw. As long as you can make the play, you do it the way you want. Jeter, on the other hand, probably would have reached out, grabbed that with one hand, and turned and made the throw.
Well, one thing is Ordonez is not your regular shortstop. I mean, he has a tremendous sense of balance and timing. That ball popped up by Shane Spencer, and that is out number 2. Let's go to Trey Wingo for an update.
All right, John, Gumout takes us to the Bob, and you can't say that enough. Rangers and D-backs. Damian Miller goes the other way off Rick Helling down the line. On the play, Travis Lee will score as the throw is not in time. But behind him, Miller tries to stretch it, and Pudge guns him down. We're tied at 1. John and Joe, back to you.
Don't run on Pudge.
Well, that's a National League team. They haven't seen enough of him yet to know better.
And strike 1 to Joe Girardi, the 9th place hitter. 2 down, nobody on. Broken back. Ordonez. Wow. Throws it in the dugout.
Well, that was a situation where I thought Leiter should have been able to make the play anyway. He intentionally let it go because he thought he was off balance, and I guess he assumes that Ordonez can catch everything. Now watch this play. You watch where Leiter ends up. Now here's the ground ball back. Now watch. See, he just kind of lets it go, and it makes it a tough play for Ordonez. I mean, he just tries an impossible play. That's one of those situations where you should just hold the ball, especially with 2 outs. But he tries to make the play and throws it in the dugout. Now you have a runner in scoring position. And that's why a lot of good fielding shortstops make a lot of errors, because they always think they can make the play.
Well, Girardi is a catcher, but he doesn't run like most catchers. Excellent speed. And he was already past the bag as that one was flying past Olerud. So here is Knobloch. Strike 1. Knobloch grounded to short his first time.
The one thing you have to do, John, when you have a lead, you do not help the other team score. You do not help them out. Make them earn it. Do not walk hitters. Do not make errors. Just make the routine plays. Make them earn the 7 runs if they're going to catch you. You mix in an error here, you walk a guy there, and before long, it can be a ball game again.
1 strike the count. But you remember when we went down to Havana with ESPN when the Orioles played the Cuban All-Star team down there, and we went to the Latino Americana Stadium for the Cuban World Series game with Industriales and Santiago de Cuba, and we saw the great Herman Mesa.
Right.
And remember, we were told the Cuban players, they dive for everything, and we saw it. We saw pitchers diving for popped-up bunts. And if they don't make the dive for the ball, they're going to hear about it not just from their coaches and their managers, but from their moms and dads, their aunts and uncles, the relatives, the kids in the neighborhood. And we have seen Ordonez make plays like that, even maybe tougher than that this year. Popped up Ordonez, and that is the inning. We're heading to the 4th inning. It's all Mets so far. Alfonso, Olerud, and Piazza coming up. 7-0 New York. Off Ray Ordonez.
With the red hair now.
Sort of a different
I
look.
guess that's red.
Rojo. Alfonso has flied deep to center and has popped a foul into a double play, and that is called strike 1. Todd Erdos on in relief of Roger Clemens, who gave up 7 runs in 2 2/3 innings. By the way, last year Clemens had the game where he gave up the most runs he's ever allowed, the most he's ever allowed in a game in a single start. 9. Actually, that's happened 4 times. It's Hideki Irabu on the left, David Cone on the right, 2 of the other Yankee starters. Look on. Clemens gave up 9 to the Seattle Mariners in May of last year. Tino's got it, and there is one away.
Well, we talked about how Jeter is more conventional and how Ordonez is flashier. Let's take a look at the way that they make similar plays. There's Jeter. See, he doesn't slide into it. He just makes the play up going to his left. And there's the way Ordonez made the one we talked about earlier. So, I mean, just two different ways of getting the job done.
Come on.
Well, I think one of the reasons that Jeter has such a strong arm that he just wants to catch the ball and then he throws the guy out. And when Ordonez is going after the ball, he's positioning himself to make the throw as quickly as possible.
Check swing. Now Jeter going to have to hurry. Well, there's that strong arm you're talking about.
Yeah.
Derek, how dull. How about a little slide? Or what about maybe a little somersault, baby? This is New York.
And I guarantee you Ordonez would have made that play differently.
Come on, Derek. Where's the sizzle?
But let's remember, Ordonez won a Gold Glove last year. Now, this is a typical Jeter play. He wants to catch the ball first. Now he uses his strong arm to throw the runner out.
2 down. Here's Mike Piazza. He's having a big night. It's a foul back out of play. Piazza has doubled, starting a 4-run rally in the second over the head of Bernie Williams in center. And he has hit a 2-run homer into Death Valley into the Yankee bullpen, measured at 418 feet.
He is such a good hitter. I mean, it's amazing, you know, to think of him as a catcher because he's just such a great hitter.
Well, 2 years ago, he had one of the greatest offensive years, maybe the greatest single offensive season by any catcher in history. I mean, it was just an incredible year. Hit over 360. And that one is outside.
Yeah, the point I'm making is, I mean, he's just such a good hitter. I mean, he's hitting over 320 right now, and he's not swinging the bat well. He hasn't been swinging the bat well. He hasn't had a hot streak yet. I mean, he's just a good hitter. He's always going to hit 300, in my opinion. Look at that. Average season, 335, 33 home runs. I mean, that's amazing.
And he's a catcher.
And he's a catcher.
I mean, he gets beat up behind the plate, just like every other catcher.
Like every other catcher, he takes the ball off his hands every once in a while, off his fingers. I mean, and that's why a lot of catchers do have problems maintaining a high batting average. So over the course of a season, you will get a lot of dings and bruises, and they take away from your concentration as well as your physical ability to swing the bat.
Hit sharply at third. Nice pickup by Brocious. In the dirt, pulled out by Tino Martinez. The Mets go down in order. The Yankees are coming up, down by 7. Jeter, O'Neill, and Bernie Williams when we come back. Ball from Yankee Stadium, 7-0. The Mets lead the Yankees last of the 4th. Now coming up, the U.S. Open from Pinehurst Resort and Country Club in North Carolina. Lee Janzen will be on hand to defend his title. David Duval, will he win his first major? Can Tom Lehman finally break through at the Open? Coverage begins Thursday, June 17th at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time on ESPN. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Here come the Yankees, last of the 4th, down by 7 runs, and Al Leiter, whose pitching coach was fired after the game last night, and certainly Leiter's performance, as well as all of the starters for the Mets, part of the reason that happened, has been strong tonight, and he gets Derek Jeter on 1 pitch. Wow, life is good.
Well, that's why I say Jeter is a free swinger, and he's very aggressive. That pitch looked like it was up and in a little bit. Now, watch, yeah, it is. It's a ball, and it's up and in, and he handcuffed Jeter, and he swung at it anyway. But that's what makes him, you know, a pretty good hitter. He's aggressive, so he's going to strike out a little bit because he'll swing at bad pitches. But when you're hitting 374 at the beginning of the ball game, you're doing something right. Plus, he's had base hits in 47 of the 53 games prior to tonight.
Paul O'Neill now with a slider. 0-1 the count.
Paul has been struggling a little bit. I mean, he just can't seem to get a rhythm where he has 3 or 4 good days in a row where he's swinging the bat. He'll swing it well one day, and the next day he doesn't. So inconsistency has been his problem so far this year.
Too far in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, O'Neill's incredibly intense, and he is so focused on the game. I mean, he always has these regrets after the fact when he throws his helmet or gets upset about failing. But on the other hand, he is something the Yankees have had to fight this year. Joe Torre has been cautioning them to not succumb to it, where they're fighting against the Yankees of last year.
Right.
They're saying, hey, we're not holding up to where we were last year.
But, John, it's impossible not to do that, because in most cases the guys last year didn't figure that they had career years. They figured this is where I am now and this is the way I will play the rest of my career. And I think you should feel that way. So you say, I can get better. I can do better than I did last year. And that has to be your goal, even though it's a tough goal to attain.
In the dirt. Well, and Torre, as he tells the story, he said he told Paul this, he says, Paul, you had the 4th best average in the history of the New York Yankees. I mean, you're on the list with Gehrig and Ruth and all these incredible greats. Relax, will you? You don't have to go chasing these bits of esoteric. Just go out and keep winning. That's Torre's got a very big.
I was going to say, was that his word or yours?
Have you ever heard me use that word before? Now look at that. Ruth, Gehrig, Earl Coombs, and DiMaggio, and now O'Neill. Actually, he's 5th on the all-time list. But some pretty good names up there. Coombs was the leadoff man of those great Murderers Row Yankee clubs in the late 20s, and one of the great leadoff men of all time.
But, John, I think that's one thing that kept the Yankees going last year. I mean, they won their division by the halfway mark. They were going to win. But the thing that kept them going was that they were never satisfied. They had to keep pushing themselves to do better. And as most people would say, they were playing against themselves last year, you know, to attain numbers, you know, to win more games than they wanted in the history of the game. And I think that has to carry over. I disagree that you have to just back off and say, okay, I'll let it fall into place, because a lot of times it will not. I think you have to continue to push. You have to continue to push yourself. That's one of the reasons that teams do not, you know, win back-to-back seasons. They'll have a great year, and then the next year they come back and think things are just going to fall into place. And if you do not keep pushing, you'll find out that it will not happen for you.
Well, I think Torre is concerned they not, you know, try too hard.
Right.
Try not
no, I agree
too
with
much
that.
pressure on themselves.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But, you know, these guys, you know, they have to have something to work for. I mean, they've won 2 world championships in the last 3 years. So what are you working for? You want a 3rd one. What else are you working for? You want to have a better year than you had last year. You want to prove that last year was not a fluke.
1 ball, 1 strike to Bernie Williams. And the changeup, strike 2. Well,
because as you know, I'm not convinced that they were the best team ever. So now you go out and you do it again. Maybe some guys will say that you're the best team ever, and maybe I would have to agree if they do it again.
Yeah. Well, what Torre would like them to focus on instead of what they did last year is you're only a half game behind Boston. Try to be better than the Red Sox this year. Right. The idea is get to the World Series. It doesn't matter if you win 114 or if you win 94. If you make it, you make it.
But it's hard. I've been honest with you. It's very difficult. If you reach the top, you know, you just want to stay there. You do not want to fall back to where everyone else is. You want to say, well, we're one of the greatest teams to ever play, and we're going to build a dynasty here. We're going to do this for the next 3 or 4 years.
Red Sox lost today to Atlanta, and so they're in a virtual tie for first place right now. But the Yankees, of course, are trailing here 7-0 to the Mets in the 4th inning.
And John, I'm speaking a little bit from experience, because when I was with the Reds, we were never satisfied just to win 1 championship. You want to win again. And when we won 2 in a row and we didn't win the 3rd one, we were very disappointed. And I think you have to keep pushing. And the Yankees will say whatever, but they will be disappointed if they do not win again this year.
And the slider struck him out. Well, Leiter, I mean, this is the way he pitched last year.
Well, I tell you, John, when he went to the mound today, I mean, he had a little giddy up in his step that I noticed when he ran out to the mound. He got out there and he jumped up, kind of threw his hands up a little bit like, I'm ready tonight. And he has definitely pitched that way. Here's a view from Mastcam. That ball starts in the strike zone and then it just drops down. It's a hard slider. And Bernie Williams tried to check his swing but could not.
Now Chili Davis. He got an infield single his first time off the glove of Leiter. 2 down. O'Neill at first. That is a strike. Well, and I want you to make clear. I mean, seeing how we're in New York and everything.
Yes.
I know what happens here.
Yes.
You start talking about great teams or whether they were the, you know. You're saying if they do it again this year, maybe you could be persuaded.
Well, I'll have to listen. Yeah, I don't have to listen last year because that was once. But again, I mean, I still thought they were a very fine ball club last year. One of the best teams, you know, to ever play. I just didn't think they were the best team.
They'll be talking about you on WFAN tomorrow.
That's okay. That's okay. I won't be here anyway.
That Joe Morgan, he's so biased. El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, who won yesterday here, and it made kind of an interesting play too.
Yeah.
Now, if they win this year,
yes,
with the play he made yesterday, then to me they're the greatest team of all time.
Okay, if they win this year and do it by steamrolling through the playoffs and doing as well as they did last year, I mean, I think you have to say that.
Off the fist to short. Ordonez forces out O'Neill at second. 7-0. The Mets are leading. Robin Ventura coming up as we move to the 5th inning. Who have won 8 of their last 10, but it's the Mets, all Mets so far tonight. 7-0 Mets. Todd Erdos in relief of Roger Clemens, who was knocked out in the 3rd inning. The Mets had a 4-run second, during which Ventura hit a single, and a 3-run third, during which Ventura singled again. 2 for 2, 2 scored. And that is just off the outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. 2 years ago, when interleague play first began, the Yanks won 2 out of 3 from the Mets in this ballpark. Last year, they moved down to Shea, and the Yanks won 2 out of 3 there. This year, there's a little new wrinkle to interleague play. Most of the teams will be playing a home and home for 6 games total against one team. For instance, the Dodgers and the Angels, the Cubs and the White Sox, the Yankees and the Mets, the Giants and the Athletics, and that sort of thing. In those situations where there's the obvious geographic tie, and there are some others who will do the same thing. But most of the players in these 2 teams are against this idea. They don't like the 6 games. They think it's too many. I think it's a good idea gone too far.
Well, one of the problems is if you're in a place here like New York, I mean, this is not just another series during the season. Everything is hyped up. And in fact, you know, this series seems like after the end, somebody should be either getting a trophy and the other guy's getting a check. You know, this is like a World Series atmosphere.
Robin Ventura down on strikes. Let's go to our colleague, Rich Eisen.
All right, John. Well, I'm in Monument Park right now out in left field, standing next to the newest piece of hardware, the one dedicated to Joe DiMaggio in an April game. A wonderful ceremony. Paul Simon sang out in center field, and Bob Shepard read out the last lineup of the last game Joe DiMaggio ever played in the 1951 World Series.
Batting third, the catcher, number 8, Yogi Berra, number 8. Batting fourth, in center field, number 5, Joe DiMaggio, number 5.
Willie Mays actually hit 8 for the Giants that day. And that day, Bob Shepard, when he read out the lineup, 1951 was DiMaggio's last season. It was Bob Shepard's first here at Yankee Stadium. And now in 1999, John, he's just a few feet down from you in the press box.
Thanks, Rich. And there he is, the elegant Bob Shepard, speech professor at St. John's University. And for all these many years, the distinctive and outstanding voice of Yankee Stadium. And he also travels across the river to Giant Stadium and works the Giants football games over there during the NFL season. He's my favorite, Joe.
He's a lot of people's favorite.
Off the left field line. And into the stands. The count 3-2 to Brian McRae, who was walked and grounded out. Bob Shepard. You know you're in Yankee Stadium. You know, it's like hearing a Sinatra song when you hear Sinatra sing it. That means something else. Yankee Stadium is incredible, but when you hear its voice, now you know you're in someplace real special. Off Erdos, barehanded by Brocious, and he throws out Brian McRae. 1-5-3 for that put out. And Girardi had to make sure Erdos is all right.
Well, this is interesting. I mean, I don't know why Brocious barehands this ball. Watch. I mean, that's a tough play to make. I mean, just catch it with your glove and throw him out. But that was a very difficult play to make. When the ball is moving that fast, the barehanded, only guy I know that does that consistently is Omar Vizquel. I mean, he just does it routinely.
Gene Monahan, the trainer, out to make sure Erdos is all right. While they talk out there, let's go to Trey Wingo for an update.
All right, John, 10-10-9000 takes us back to the Bob. Matt Williams put the D-backs up 4-1, but in the 6th, Juan Gonzalez only hitting 143 against Andy Bennis. Doesn't matter. His 15th home run. It's now a 4-2 game. John and Joe.
All right, thanks, Trey. That's the other ball game going on tonight in the majors, and we'll keep you updated there as we bring you this one from the Bronx. Juan Gonzalez, by the way, now with 51 RBIs. Bobby Bonilla coming on Bernie Williams, and that is the inning. Erdos has retired 7 in a row. Tino Martinez and then Scott Brocious coming up. 7-0 Mets.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Phillips. Technology that's making life a little better all the time. And by Black & Decker. Go hog wild with the Grass Hog. Built by Black & Decker. We now return to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Presented by Gumout with John Miller and Joe Morgan.
All right, and there's ball 1 to Tino Martinez. He's still giving me first billing, Joe.
That's okay.
I think, you know why? I think he's a New York guy. He's one of those guys who were calling the talk shows last year complaining about you. 2-0 the count. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Joe, Hall of Fame, top billing, let's face it.
We miss, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm back.
Man, you are like a you're a jet setter these days. Joe spending a little time at center court in, what is it, Roland Garros?
Roland Garros.
Roland Garros in Paris. How was it over there? You enjoy it?
Enjoyed it. Tennis was great. Great restaurant.
Oh,
Big place.
You did more than just watch the tennis.
Oh, yes. Had a great time.
All right.
I don't want to name drop or anything, so I won't.
Is Paris a better city than New York? Careful.
You're trying. I love New York.
All right.
Love New York.
I know. You always, I mean, you live life to the fullest. Joe never sleeps. He says, I have plenty of time for that when I'm dead. Three and 2 is Al Leiter. Has a 2-hitter going, and he walks Tino Martinez. Al Leiter took 10 days off between his last 2 starts, and during that time he had a chance to compare tapes of his past and current form, and he found out something. Here's what he told us.
Just really not much leg drive, not much direction toward home plate. Normally when I'm right, I finish and fall to third base. I've been falling a lot to the first base side, and basically pitchers try to get like a north-south delivery, not east-west, which I've been doing a lot of, and if you fall into the left, you're not able to get your backside over. And, you know, it creates for a bad angle, and also, too, your bearings are off.
And it's a called strike to Scott Brocious.
John, when we did the game Memorial Day, he was talking about that, but he's still not driving across where he finishes on the third base side. He said that helped him to get the ball in on the right-handed hitters. You see, he's finishing on the first base side. But he's successful tonight, so I don't know if I would change anything.
That game on Memorial Day gave up 5 runs in 7 innings. And he was really almost flustered talking about it after. He said, you know, I felt like I had good stuff. But the Reds actually came from behind to win that ball game.
And the Reds are playing good baseball right now, so.
It's been one of the surprise teams early on in the National League. I mean, they are real hot.
And that's one of the things, John, you can look at if you look at this Mets 8-game losing streak. They were swept by the Diamondbacks, who were playing excellent baseball. They were swept by the Reds, who are playing very good baseball. They've lost the first 2 ball games here to the Yankees, who are playing very good at this time. So they've run into some hot teams, you know, at the wrong time. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the Mets are playing good baseball. They were 7 or 8 games above 500.
Got to play. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes. Well, the Reds have won 8 in a row. And they have moved ahead of the Cubs. And the Cubs have been real hot. The Cubs lost today in Cleveland. The Reds won at Kansas City. Houston also lost today. The Reds are only a game and a half out of the Central Division. Even though the man who's supposed to be their ace pitcher, Denny Nagel, has not won a game and has been on the disabled list most of the year. We got some fine young players. Sean Casey looks like he got a chance to be one of the great hitters in the game.
And he's swinging the bat very well at this point, and he looks like he knows what he's doing in the batter's box.
And the guy who has a great respect and great love for the game came into the day second in the National League with a .379 average. Sean Casey. Roches bloops one, shallow left. That is caught. Agbayani is destroying the Yankees. Let's see, that I have Agbayani out there, but that is Cedeno. I beg your pardon. Cedeno made the great catch.
And it was a fine catch. Roches gets jammed, and we get this view from behind the plate, and here comes Cedeno. Usually you make that catch with one hand. He made it with two. Nice play by Cedeno.
And Cedeno came up throwing as Tino Martinez had to hurry back to first base. Roger Cedeno, I mean, this guy has got great speed and range in the outfield. We know he can steal a base. He's been proving that. Shane Spencer now, one of the heroes of the month of September for the Yankees, and even in the division series against Texas. This guy got on a roll last year. Back out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I watched him, you know, all down the stretch and during the playoffs. I don't think I'd ever seen anyone swinging the bat as well as he had on just about every pitch. When he got a pitch to hit, he did not foul it back. He put it in play and usually hit it over the wall. Look at those numbers in September.
8 homers and 38 at bats. I mean, that's incredible. That's a foul ball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Spencer got the thrill of not only playing in a World Series, but playing against his hometown team. Shane Spencer, who grew up in the San Diego area. Granite Hills High School out there. He lives now in El Cajon. Gee, I didn't know George was here tonight, Joe.
Well, he said he wasn't going to make the series, and then he decided he was coming tonight, so he is here someplace.
He said that must be Little George. May have a commercial with George and Little George coming up here. 2-2 the count. Shane Spencer, 1 out, 1 on in the 5th inning. The Mets lead the Yanks 7-0. Leiter, 17 wins last year, but only 2 so far this year. That is ball 3, and over to second base. Opportunistically goes Tino Martinez on the wild pitch. Now Leiter. Bobby Valentine looks on, and with not a whole lot of worries at this moment for one of the few times recently. Leiter came into this game with the 5th worst earned run average in the National League. It's not just that he hadn't pitched well. I mean, he's pitched extremely badly, which has hurt the Mets. They don't have a single starting pitcher whose earned run average is below 5.
Dave Wallace, new pitching coach. Was a pitching coach with the Dodgers for a few years.
That's foul. Spencer battling it out here.
John, it was really difficult reading the papers here in New York about all the, firing of the coaches and Bobby Valentine. I mean, Valentine was criticized for not making the ultimate sacrifice and quitting. People actually criticized him for not quitting once they fired his coaches. I mean, that's a little tough because he did give the coaches a job. He's the one that got them hired, but I think he has unfinished business here. He wants to give it his best shot here before he leaves.
A ball 4 to Spencer. That's quite an at-bat by Shane Spencer. And it's the third walk allowed by Al Leiter in the last 2 innings. 1 out, 2 men on, and Joe Girardi is coming up.
One other comment I read about from Steve Phillips, you know, the GM, he said that the Mets clubhouse had turned ornery with the complaints and so forth and so on. That was the word he used. It was an ornery clubhouse.
Earlier this week, Bobby Valentine held a team meeting, and then a couple of days after that, the team had its own meeting. And there have been several complaints aired in public by some of the veteran players about, and we talked about this earlier, the feeling that there's a lack of communication between Bobby Valentine and them about when they're playing, when they're not playing. Girardi singled his first time, and that's a foul.
Well, I'm a firm believer in having communication with your veteran players for 2 reasons. One, because they're veterans, because they've earned certain status. But secondly, because I think they can help you with your young players. They can help keep the young players in line if they're, you know, if they're comfortable. So I think you have to keep your veteran players on your side if you're a manager.
0-1 to Girardi. That's a ball inside. 1 ball and 1 strike with 2 men on. The Yankees with 2 men on in the same inning for the first time. Tino Martinez at second. Shane Spencer at first, each getting a walk. Yanks only had 2 hits in this game. Well, the veteran player can be a great ally to a manager.
Exactly.
Not just by his performance, but because of his presence
and the influence that he does have on the younger players.
When a teammate says something to a young player, that resonates a little more maybe than when a coach or a manager. I was just talking to Art Howe about that on Friday. The manager of Oakland, he says he's got a very young ball club, and they've added Tony Phillips this year. And Tony Phillips will get into a guy's face and say, hey, we don't do that here. We run those balls out. And he said that resonates a lot more than when a coach would say it, or even the manager. It's a teammate.
That's why teams that always win always have veteran players on their team, because they help the manager regulate what goes on in the clubhouse.
1 ball, 1 strike. Too low. 2-1. Leadoff man Chuck Knobloch is on deck. The Mets have, in some ways, taken this big crowd out of this game early on tonight with a 7-run burst of offense in the 2nd and 3rd innings. Left center, Cedeno will have to go chase it. Tino Martinez scores. Spencer will be held by Willie Randolph. The Yanks have their first run, 7-1 Mets.
Sean, this is what I was talking about earlier. When you get a lead, you do not help the opposition. You do not walk hitters. You do not make errors. You just make the routine plays, make them earn it. Leiter walked 2 hitters, and now he gives Girardi a 2-1 fastball in the middle of the plate, and he drills it in the gap in left center field. Good play here by Cedeno. He plays the carom and gets the ball back in, and they hold Shane Spencer at third base.
Bobby Valentine had a chat with Al Leiter between innings about this 5th inning. He's talking to Dave Wallace, the pitching coach, about the 5th inning and Al Leiter pitching in the 5th. Chuck Knobloch, the hitter. Bobby Valentine wearing a microphone down there, so when we have a moment, we'll let you eavesdrop on that conversation. Well, they were talking about the Yankee fans being out of this game. Well, they're back. Didn't take much. First ball swinging. Knobloch pops it up. And Ordonez. That is out number 2. 2 down. Knobloch gone in just one pitch. Well, here's what Valentine said to Dave Wallace before this inning.
Gaugers for my head is after the 5th, how many they have, how many starting pitchers have. You know, I don't need it every inning. After the 5th, so I can gauge, okay, I know where he is, then I see it come 6th and 7th, you know. And if there's ever a real long one.
So kind of working with his new pitching coach, talking about information that he would need from a pitching coach.
He need what he needs to make decisions after the 5th inning on a starter.
By the way, if Bobby were to ask us, we tell him Leiter's thrown 79 pitches for the game, and this is his 25th pitch of this inning. So that's one of those long innings he was talking about.
Well, Jeter has not reached base in this ball game so far, and we know he's reached base in every game that the Yankees have played this year. So, and he has also hit in 47 of the 53 games also. So,
reached base by either a hit or a walk in 53 straight games this year, and the last 4 last year.
And this is what the Yankees did so well last year. They become very patient with a guy who's a little erratic. And we've seen that this inning with the 2 walks, and then they got a pitch to hit and they drove it. Jeter has swung at the first pitch the first couple of at-bats. Now, in this situation, he's taken a couple of pitches off the plate.
And that's a foul into the upper deck off the first base side. 2 balls and a strike. Well, he did just what Knobloch did in this at-bat. He got jammed and chased it on the first pitch. Well, the Yankees have such a long way to go in this game, but it's only the 5th inning. If they could get these 2 runners home, it's a game. Yeah. So this is a big moment, even though Leiter's leading by 6. Spencer at third, Girardi at second. Chili Davis looking on. And from third base, Ventura. And that is the inning. And he got in the hands on both Knobloch and Jeter to get out of the jam. Just the 1 run for the Yanks. 7-1 Mets. Here's Benny Agbayani against Todd Erdos. That's a called strike. Agbayani hit a 2-run single against Clemens in the second to make that a 4-run inning. Then he drove in the 7th run for the Mets and knocked Clemens out of the game in the 3rd. His average for the year is now .431.
Pretty good hitting. .431.
He only had 58 at-bats, but I remember when Wade Boggs came up 1982 with the Red Sox. Carney Lansford was the reigning batting champion, and he was the 3rd baseman. And by later than this, mid-June, Boggs had 26 at-bats. Couldn't get in there. Well, then Lansford got hurt in a play at the plate. Ran into Lance Parrish. Not a good idea. Put him on the shelf for a month. And Wade Boggs was thrown out there at third base because they had no one else. And in that month, he had a chance to show what he could do. And he hit .425. Now when Lansford got back, they said, we got to find a room for this guy. And Chuck Knobloch just did get him. Tino Martinez. Good thing he didn't cut his toenails this morning. Knobloch has had some demons out there on the routine throws, and we just saw a little example of it.
Well, I mean, first, I mean, he's having trouble catching the ball as well. I mean, he had stiff hands on that particular play. And a good play there by Tino Martinez to reach back and get it with his toe.
Now Ray Ordonez to shortstop, Derek Jeter. And he throws out Ordonez. And that is out number 2. Coming up now, Wednesday Night Baseball, a doubleheader on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Ken Griffey Jr. having a big year. Alex Rodriguez against Larry Walker and the Colorado Rockies. Then the second game, Juan Gonzalez, Rafael Palmeiro and the Rangers take on Raul Mondesi and the Dodgers. And that is quite a doubleheader. Mariners and Rockies, 7:30 Eastern, Rangers and Dodgers at 10:30. Ken Griffey Jr. at Coors Field. That is worth it. Yeah, all by itself. Tired 10 in a row. O'Neill, Bernie Williams, and Chili Davis coming up. The big guns. Yanks trail 7-1. Now Leiter was living dangerously in the 5th inning. He walked a couple, and then Girardi hit a double to get a run home. And he had Knobloch and Jeter coming up, but he got both of them with the jam jobs and got out of it. Paul O'Neill has struck out looking, and he is walked.
Beautiful pitch right there. He's been throwing him sliders away. He went away with the first pitch, and then he comes in back under the hands. I mean, watch this pitch. I mean, it's a beautiful pitch. Perfect pitch. And now, I mean, he's got Paul O'Neill guessing. He's kept Paul O'Neill off balance the entire ball game.
From Mascam as Mike Piazza sees it. Goes back outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes. You know, we talk a lot about the Mets and the problems that have beset them. And it seems that if you're going to put a statistical spin on it, the starting pitching has been poor, and their clutch hitting has not been there. O'Neill pops it up. Ray Ordonez. And there is 1 away. The Yankees have had their own offensive problems. They've been slumping and have not hit well in the clutch either, although it doesn't show up quite as much. And Chuck Knobloch's had his own defensive slump.
Well, let's take a look at this. First of all, look at his hands. I mean, they're stiff. And look at his throw. He grabs it. I mean, just not much on there at all. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, lack of confidence out there. First, he caught the ball with his stiff hands. That tells you he doesn't want the ball hit to him. And then when he did grab it, he just kind of pushed it to first base. He didn't throw it. And that's a long way for a guy who won a Gold Glove in 1997 to, you know, be having problems making throws.
Bernie Williams has fouled out to first and struck out. Well, you know, Chuck Knobloch wanted out of Minnesota when the Twins were struggling. But sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for.
Well,
I mean, he had a real comfort level at the Metrodome and with Tom Kelly, his surroundings.
And he took advantage of the AstroTurf there by hitting ground balls, and now he hits a lot of fly balls, and he's struggling.
You come here, and now instead of a homegrown product where they've seen you ever since you were a rookie, as we get a look at the panoramic look at Yankee Stadium, courtesy of the Gum Out Aerial Cam.
And John, the reason last year everything was okay was because they won. But if they were to have some struggles this year down the stretch in September, a lot of fingers would be pointed if he's not having a good year. So it'll be a little different.
And let's face it, figures were pointed last year. Ordonez with the catch on a shot hit by Bernie Williams. Wow. As Phil Rizzuto used to say here in New York, oh man, he creamed that ball.
And he did cream it.
But they've been making a lot of mistakes tonight, Joe. They've been hitting too many balls to Ordonez.
Now watch this. I mean, he doesn't do anything conventionally. Look at this. I mean, everything he does has a little flair to it, but he makes the plays. I mean, to watch him, he kind of slides and ducks. As you see, Bernie Williams not real happy. He needed that base hit.
Ordonez has had 6 putouts and 4 assists in this game already. And a busy man. Bernie Williams, the hitter. Pretty good strategy by Leiter. Make him hit it. I said Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams just lined out. Chili Davis, the hitter, taking ball 1. Make him hit it to Ray Ordonez. That's pretty good strategy. Chili Davis has had an infield single, and he has hit a ground ball to Ordonez, this time to Robin Ventura. And so it's an easy inning for Al Leiter. We're going into the 7th now. Alfonso Olaruda Piazza. Ballpark. 24 World Championships. Edgardo Alfonso 0 for 3 in the game. As Todd Erdos has certainly given the Yankees a chance to mount a comeback. He has retired 10 consecutive hitters after walking the first man that he faced. He inherited a 7-0 deficit in relief of Clemens. Derek Jeter. So smooth out there. And there is 1 away. The College World Series is coming on ESPN. Starting June the 11th through June 18th on ESPN and The Deuce from Omaha. Coverage begins Friday with 2 games on ESPN at 3:30 Eastern and 7:30 Eastern. For more about the College World Series, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network. And here are the 8 teams on their way. Miami, Alabama, Stanford, Florida State, Oklahoma State, Cal State Fullerton, and Texas A&M and Rice from the Lone Star State. The Aggies and the Owls. 1 ball and no strikes to John Olerud. He started the 3-run 3rd inning rally with a single to right. It was close. 2-0 the count. Red Sox lost today in extra innings to Atlanta. So the Braves, who lost to Pedro Martinez Friday, rebounded, and they came back against Tom Gordon yesterday, his first blown save since last year. And then they won again today in the extra frame. Take 2 out of 3 up there. Not good news for the Mets, who are trailing the Braves in the National League East, but good news for the Yankees, who are just behind the Red Sox in the American League East. We have a few of those going on right now. Tonight, Arizona, leading the National League West, is hosting Texas, leading the American League West, while San Francisco, second in the National League West, was hosting Oakland earlier today. Oakland started the weekend second in the American League West. Some interesting matchups among some of the top divisional teams in this first weekend of interleague play, 1999. 3-2 to Olerud. Piazza is on deck. Back out of play. So if the Yankees end up losing this game, and they're trailing 7-1, courtesy of the National League Eastern leaders, Atlanta, they would remain just a half game back of Boston. And that is a foul out of play off to the left. The other thing, here the Mets having to battle with Atlanta, and right now Philadelphia. The Phillies are playing real well. Some excellent hitting, and some fine young pitching as Dan Nolte starts to warm up in the Yankee bullpen. But the Mets have to play the Yankees, the defending world champions, 6 times this year. The Braves don't. The Phillies don't. There are a few inequities in the interleague schedule this year. Ball 4 to Olerud. Piazza coming up.
Let's take a look at Mike Piazza. He's hit a home run and a double. Now these 2 swings are going to be very similar in that the balance is almost perfect. Take a look at his balance, and he just drops his shoulder down on the low pitch and drives it out. Now watch, this next pitch is up about belt high. Balance is there, everything the same. He just didn't have to go down and get it. So very similar in his approach. He didn't have to change anything. The bad pitch, meaning the splitter that stayed up, was hit out of the ballpark. The low fastball, he was able to go down and get. That's good hitting, being able to adjust to what the pitcher is doing.
Piazza having a big night. That first swing, the low pitch, was a double to center that started the 4-run second. That second pitch, the belt high one, was a long home run to Death Valley to the right of the 399 marker out there. 2-run homer. He is 2 for 3 in the game. His first weekend at Yankee Stadium. Erdos the pitcher. Soaring pop-up foul. It goes out of play.
And they've changed their approach in this at bat to Piazza. They tried to come in on him on that pitch. The other 2 pitches were out over the plate.
Piazza in the first 2 games of this series was 2 for 8 with 4 strikeouts. He struck out 3 times yesterday. But tonight, he has shown the fans here at Yankee Stadium what he's all about. At a 40 homer, 362 year, 2 years ago with the Dodgers. That's another pop up.
Another pitch in.
Derek Jeter. And that is out number 2.
Watch where this fastball is. And they try to get him in, and you can see the difference in his swing. He opened. Watch his front shoulder. See how he pulls his front shoulder out? That slows his bat on the front on the pitch, and he pops it up. He wasn't able to get the bat to the ball. The other 2 pitches he hit were out over the plate. That's a pretty good pitch there by Erdos. They did exactly what they wanted to do.
Robin Ventura, 2 for 3, 2 singles. Pops it up, back out of play. Well, you got to be pretty impressed with Todd Erdos.
Yes.
His first big league outing of the season. And Roger Clemens, somebody crossed the 20-game winning streak out, although it's not over yet. Not until the Yankees actually failed to come back and tie this game.
Well, what would Yogi say? It's never over till it's over. So it's not over yet.
Lawrence Peter Barra?
Yeah.
He said that? I thought he had an 8 in there somewhere.
Maybe so.
Don't clean up Yogi's language. Come on. It ain't over till it's over.
Well, and actually that sounds better. I mean, you understand what he means.
And Yogi reconciled with George Steinbrenner, and Yogi's back in Yankee Stadium.
And that's great.
He was absent here for many, many years. The Yankees and this franchise and their fans were the poorer for it. 3-1 now to Robin Ventura.
And I tell you what, I played golf with Yogi a lot. I used to spend a lot of winters with him, every winter actually playing golf. And it takes a lot to make Yogi mad. So George had really made him mad.
And there's ball 4 to Robin Ventura. So 2 walks in the inning by Erdos.
There's Yogi on the lower right with the '62 World Championship team.
Yogi by that time was playing a lot of left field.
There's Elston Howard.
Elston Howard, yeah. He's doing most of the catching at that time. Got a pitching change coming. 7-1 Mets. We'll be right back.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Gum Out. Drive your fuel system clean with a complete
Subway Series, Game 3. The Yanks won the first 2. 4-3 and 6-3, but it's been all Mets since early on tonight. They knocked Roger Clemens out of the box in the 3rd inning. Now Dan Nolte, a former Minnesota Twin, and also out of Cal State Fullerton, where he pitched in the College World Series. And of course, Fullerton is on its way back to the College World Series again this year. Nolte inherits a couple of base runners. Olerud at second, Ventura at first. Talking there to Mookie Wilson, as Brian McRae will come up. He has walked and twice grounded out. He's 0 for 2. And what a job by Todd Erdos, just called up from the minor leagues on Friday in Columbus. And he pitched 4 no-run, no-hit innings, although he is responsible for those 2 base runners. Erdos originally in the San Diego Padres farm system, and then was a expansion draft choice of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and acquired the Yankees in the deal that sent Andy Fox to Arizona during spring training of last year. Erdos had gotten into 2 games for the Yanks last year, but not really impressively. But tonight, Joe, it was pretty impressive.
Well, he threw strikes. I mean, quite naturally, he was nervous on the first hitter just coming up from the minor leagues and walked him. But after that, he settled down and pitched very well.
Just missing on the inside. Not getting that call very often tonight on that inside pitch. 2 balls and a strike to McRae. Bobby Bonilla would be next. Nolte has a big league experience with the Twins. He was up all year in 1996 as a reliever. One time I think Tom Kelly was thinking about maybe him being the closer, but it never really worked out. It's in the Yankee bullpen. Jeff Nelson is going to have some surgery. Arthroscopic surgery on his right elbow. Joe Torre is hopeful that they'll get him before the end of the season. Nelson, a lot of experience out of that bullpen. Sharply hit the second. Knobloch bombs it over to Tino Martinez, and that ends the inning. 2 men left. We go to the last of the 7th inning. Tino Martinez is coming up. 7-1 Mets. Baseball, the Mets 7, the Yankees 1. Last of the 7th inning. Tino Martinez will lead it off against Al Leiter, who has just shut down the Yanks. And this is Leiter that the Mets were expecting to see when they re-upped him for a multi-year contract to be the ace of their staff, as he was last year when he won 17 games. You know, it's interesting, in the interleague game with the Yankees last year, he hurt his knee. And he problems with that knee again this year. He misses for a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. To Tino Martinez, and the fans out in the bleachers lead the Tino cheer. Base hit. Agbayani hustles over to cut it off. And let's go to Rich Eisen.
All right, thanks very much, John. Many Yankee fans have already left the building, but not the mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. You're still here in the bottom of the 7th inning, but where's the Yankee guard tonight?
Where's my Yankee hat? Right here. Give me my Yankee hat. Come on, hurry up.
And also, what I think many Yankee fans saw shocking recently is you were dressed in full Met regalia recently. How did that happen?
Do that. I root. Here's my Yankee cap. Put it on. I root for the Mets in the National League and the Yankees in the American League. But when they play each other, I root for the Yankees.
And you have no fear of losing the Met vote because of that.
Oh yeah, I do. They boo me all the time.
But you could still win with the Yankees.
When I went up to do a little radio before, they were yelling at me, "Are you still a Yankee fan? 7-0. Are you still going to be here?" So I have to remain now until the very end.
Well, I'm going to send it back to John while I talk to you about parking on my street. Back to you, John.
All right, thanks, Rich. 0-2 now the count to Scott Brocious. Al Leiter had the Mets' last complete game, but that was in September, early September of last year. In fact, the Mets have not had anybody so much as finish 8 innings in a game this year. Brocious into center. McRae, and that is out. Number 1, Brocious is 0 for 3. The Mets bullpen is up right now, even as we speak. Leiter works in the 7th inning here. Brocious back to the dugout. Shane Spencer will come up now. There is Armando Benitez, the former Baltimore Oriole, who is just having an amazing year in the Mets bullpen.
Well, the entire bullpen, as I said earlier, is pitching well. John Franco has only had 1 blown save. He gets in trouble a lot, but he's always able to get out of trouble. So their bullpen has been excellent.
Al Leiter had 7 2/3 innings pitched in April against Montreal. That is not only his longest outing of the year, it's the longest outing by any Mets starter the whole year. And here he is in the 7th inning, and they've got the bullpen going. He has now thrown 100 pitches in the game. Shane Spencer has popped to short and walked. 1 out. Tino Martinez at first. And that's inside with a cut fastball. 2-0. The Mets have had 60 consecutive games going back to last year since somebody actually finished the 8th inning of a game. And that bullpen has been tested this year. High in the air. He has stayed off the fat part of the Yankees bats most of the night. Agbayani makes the grab. 2 down. Paid attendance 56,294 as we look at Yankee Stadium from the gum out aerial cam. And that is the all-time record for a night game here at Yankee Stadium since they remodeled the ballpark, opening up again in the remodeled fashion in 1976. The 3-game series, more than 168,000 fans paid their way into Yankee Stadium. That is also a record for a 3-game series here at the remodeled Yankee Stadium. 168,404. Joe Girardi has had an infield single, and he has also hit a double, driving in the Yankees' only run of the game. The count 2-0. Leadoff man Chuck Knobloch would be next. Well, the Yankees have some streaks on the line tonight. Joe, Roger Clemens with that 20-game winning streak of his. And if they don't come back and at least tie this ball game, that will be at an end. Derek Jeter, 53 straight games this year, plus the last 4 of last year. Actually, the last 57 games, he has reached base with either a hit or a walk. Not tonight against Leiter. 0 for 3 against Leiter. And a Mets streak could end tonight. The Mets have lost 8 in a row. The Mets streak, and think they would feel much differently about an ending than the Yankees would feel about any of theirs ending. Robin Ventura. And the force out at second base with Alfonso covering on Martinez. We go to the 8th inning now. Bonilla coming up. 7-1 Mets for the 8th inning from Yankee Stadium. And here's the gum out in-game box score for the Mets. At the top of the order, not much from Cedeno and Alfonso, but it hasn't mattered. Olerud with a single. He scored a run. Mike Piazza's had the big night. A homer and a double. 2 RBIs, 2 scored. Robin Ventura, 2 singles, 2 scored. And on down the list, Bobby Bonilla got the thing rolling in the second inning with a bases loaded double to drive in the first 2 runs. And Benny Agbayani's had 2 hits and 3 RBIs, all against Roger Clemens, whom they knocked out in the 3rd inning. Now be sure and look at your newsstand for ESPN Magazine. The new issue is out there now. On the cover, Tiger Woods, and on the inside, Dan Patrick's outtakes with David Cohn. So the Astros in orbit, and Sean Green of the Blue Jays thriving. All in the ESPN Magazine. Check it out. Bobby Bonilla, 2-0 the count. Bonilla, when he was asked on Friday about the New York Times report that he had been placed on irrevocable waivers, which basically means if anybody claimed him, he was theirs. Bonilla facing Dan Nolte, and that is ball 3. Bonilla's quote in the papers here was, well, they can ship me out to Alaska if they want. They can send me home tomorrow if they like. I'll watch the boys play from my house. I might even buy a season ticket. Well, ball forward to Bobby Bonilla.
Well, it's not a bad idea since it's their money. The paper also reported that they still owe him $12 million. So I guess he could buy a season ticket.
Could be a trade being discussed right now, Joe. Steve Phillips, the vice president and general manager for the Mets. Bobby Bonilla over at first base, and Benny Agbayani will come up. He is 2 for 3 with 3 runs batted in. Too high from Nolte. 7-1. The Mets are leading in the 8th inning. Bonilla told me before the game that his knee feels just fine. He hurt the knee in a freak play at first base in spring training. Pitcher covering, they collided, and he hurt the knee badly. Tried to play on it for a long while. It just wasn't working. And I mean, Bobby Bo feels he's got a lot of very strong baseball still in him. But last year he tried to play hurt all year long, and it just did not work. First with Florida, then with the Dodgers. It's a foul. 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Agbayani.
Well, he's actually taking his brace off. He's not wearing a brace tonight. He says his knee feels great, and he's starting to be able to play without the brace.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Agbayani. Slider, a strike. Did he say it was a strike?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I thought that was strike 3.
It is.
Well, yeah, and finally Agbayani agrees. Well, earlier Bobby Valentine, the Mets manager, who's wearing a microphone tonight for us, was talking to the Mets bat boy about this losing streak the Mets have been dealing with.
Trying to decide if it was me or if it was you. It was a tough decision. Every time I'd sit by myself, I'd look up, count the days that you're here, and count the days that I've been trying to manage a win. And I'm not one to ever point the finger. But there was a little coincidence here. You know what I mean?
But I was 3-0 the first time I came.
Yeah, you were.
So just a little coincidence. I think that's Oral Hershiser's son. He's got 2 boys, and they live down in Florida. When they have a chance to be up here with Dad, they take advantage of it.
I think school's out now anyway, isn't it, in a lot of places?
Already?
A lot of places.
Hershiser now with the Mets. And that's all for Ordonez. So a couple of strikeouts here for Nolte. 2 down, runner at first, and leadoff man Roger Clemens coming up. 7-1 is the score here. The Mets, who open up this big lead very early in this ball game. Look at it.
In fact, I'm sure school is out in a lot of places. Roger Clemens' family was here to watch him pitch tonight.
From the Tech of the Houston area. And he was very anxious for his wife and his kids to get a flavor of the Mets and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. All the excitement, the electricity. But as it turned out, it was Roger himself who didn't get much of the flavor. Only 2 2/3 innings pitched. Allowed. 3 balls and no strikes. Well, you know, I was talking to Bobby Valentine at the batting cage, Joe, and also later to Mike Piazza, John Olerud, Robin Ventura. Because losing streaks, everything gets magnified. Really, I mean, it's a terrible time for anybody involved in it. But in 1983, I remember the Baltimore Orioles, who won the World Series that year and won 98 games in the regular season, had 2 different 7-game losing streaks. I mean, they had 7 losses in a row 2 times that year, and they won it all. Well, that one hit hard by Cedeno right to O'Neill. Derek Jeter coming up second, and he has not reached base tonight. His streak is on the line. Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Gum Out from Yankee Stadium, New York, and it's been all Mets. They lead 7-1. Here's the Gum Out Yankees in-game box score, and a lot of offers up there at the top of the order. Yanks only have 4 hits, and the only RBI from Joe Girardi, the 9th place hitter, who has had half of the hits against Al Leiter, and we say that in the past tense because Leiter is gone. And Armando Benitez, former Baltimore Oriole flamethrower, comes on.
To a real loud chorus of boos, because remember, he hit Tino Martinez and they had a big fight here when he was with the Orioles.
He was suspended. But look at those numbers. Those are unbelievable numbers. I mean, it's like Billy Wagner type numbers. He's pitched, as you saw, 26 2/3 innings, only 13 hits allowed, and 43 strikeouts. The only real negative number, 17 walks. So he's averaging about 6 walks per every 9 innings pitched. But he also is averaging more than 14 strikeouts for every 9. Slider a little bit low on the outside. Knobloch 0 for 3. Derek Jeter has reached base with either a hit or a walk in every game for the last 57 games going back to last year. Is on deck. He has not reached base tonight. That is a base hit for Knobloch. And now Jeter. Jeter has grounded to third, flied to shallow right, and grounded to third again. The last 25 years, Mark McGwire has had the longest streak of this nature. Will Clark, and then Derek Jeter, Wade Boggs, and Frank Thomas. There's pretty good names on that list. Joe DiMaggio, of course, reached with at least 1 hit in every game for 56 games in a row. Slider down and away. Of course, DiMaggio then had the 1 hitless game and hit safely in the next 16 games after that. As I understand it, DiMaggio in that stretch when you factor in the walks that he had a couple of games in that stretch where he didn't get a hit, but he had a walk. So 74 straight games he reached with a hit or a walk. Oh, man, he's throwing out a hard slider. 0-2.
Well, Jeter, like I said, is a free swinger. He's aggressive, and he chased the first slider. That one looked like it was a strike, but he was still fooled by the speed.
He's still trying to fool him with that pitch.
Well, I think that's a smart play. You don't throw a strike with it, but he's chased one slider, and you throw him one for a strike. Just try to see if he'll chase another one.
Here's the assessment of Joe Morgan, my partner, who just flew in recently from Paris. What time is it in Paris about now?
8 o'clock in the morning.
Jeter got a piece of it, fouling it back into the press box. Hello. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Jeter is hitting .369 for the year. They say he's hitting with more power. Balls that he would have hit to the warning track in center field last year are going out this year. Continues to make improvements. Oh, the fastball, and that got him.
Well, they threw him slider after slider, and you can see that. And they give him a great ovation here as they realize that streak has come to an end unless the Yankees are able to score quite a few runs in the next inning and a third, inning and 2/3. But Mike Piazza made a good call there, threw him slider after slider, and then went with the high fastball. And you see the target up high by Piazza, and Benitez throws it up high.
Well, I mean, Jeter was tied up all night long by Leiter. And now he faces the hard slider of Benitez, and in front of the gas for the strikeout. Running on the play is Knobloch, and he steals it as Benitez was paying no attention to him whatsoever. Not that it may have a significant effect on the outcome. The Mets, after all, are leading 7-1. So Jeter 0 for 4 tonight. 1-0 to Paul O'Neill. 2-0. O'Neill has struck out, walked, and popped to short. Armando Benitez, who came up with Baltimore, and the organization and the fans really never warmed up to Benitez. He always seemed to have great promise, but in some ways there's always a disappointment. He gave up a couple of critical home runs in that series with Cleveland, the league championship series 2 years ago. Oh, man. Gashed that one right by Paul O'Neill, including the game-winning home run of the extra inning game from Tony Fernandez. He hung a fork ball to Fernandez, and that was the only run of that game. And last year he gave up 7 home runs with Baltimore, all on sliders or fork balls. Tino Martinez, who took one in the back against Benitez last year when Armando was still with Baltimore, precipitating a huge brawl at Yankee Stadium. They asked Tino about that, and I liked his answer, Joe. He said, hey, that's last year. It's all over with now. You go on in baseball. He said, besides, if you think I should still be worried about it, why don't you ask Derek Jeter if he's worried about Roger Clemens hitting him last year? Now that he's his teammate. There's a little bad blood between Jeter and the Yankees and Clemens at one time last year. Yankee Stadium. More than, well, what, about 75 years now. Baseball in this great ballpark, and some of the all-time greats, and that's the view from high above. The big ballpark in the Bronx from the Gum Out aerial cam. I like having these guys with us every week, Joe. I like that view. 3-2, and O'Neill chases that one and fouls it out of play. Look at that, 98 miles an hour. Well, there was a memorable moment. Benitez in that 96 division series against Cleveland. Armando came on in a tight spot, bases loaded, when he inherited the situation. And Albert Bell And I think it was a 3-0 or 3-2 pitch. And Albert knew a fastball was coming, and he launched it into the seats and left for a grand slam. And Benitez throws hard, but maybe it was this change of scenery that he needed to harness everything and put it all together, because he's got some of the best stuff that you'll see of any pitcher in the game today.
And you're right, John. A lot of times a change of scenery will do a guy some good. I mean, you get in a rut in one place, and he's throwing 98 miles an hour here. He started off throwing 94, 95. Now he's reaching back, getting a little bit more. As you see, there's the number 4 train.
There it goes.
There it goes.
All of a sudden, a few people on that train now. O'Neill down on strikes.
Well, you throw a guy 98-mile-an-hour fastball, so he says, well, I got to catch up with this next one. And what do? You throw him a splitter at 89 miles an hour. I mean, this is really kind of unfair. There's a splitter at 89 miles an hour, and he goes straight down, and nothing that O'Neill could do with it. You see how he waves at it. I mean, he's been throwing him 98-mile-an-hour fastballs, 3-2 pitches, and now he comes with that. A little bit unfair there, especially with a 7-1 lead.
Benitez came into this game with a 1.69 earned run average. He came to the Mets in that 3-sided trade involving the Dodgers, the Orioles, and the Mets. The Orioles gave up Benitez but got Charles Johnson, who is one of the top catchers in the game. The Dodgers ended up with Todd Hundley. The Mets also got Roger Clemens. Based on their early performances, made out pretty well in that trade. A couple of very talented young players. Cedeno, who given a shot in the month of May, started stealing bases and just would not be shut down. He had 23 steals in May alone. Bernie Williams, and the count goes to 2-1. Cedeno with 23 steals not only set a Mets team record for a month, that was the most stolen bases in a single calendar month in the big leagues since 1990, when Vince Coleman stole 24. So to be in that kind of company, that's impressive.
Yes, it is.
I mean, at that time, Vince Coleman was, I mean, teams around the National League would just say you couldn't throw him out. And they used to say that about this guy too.
Yeah.
In fact, last year, a few teams were saying it when Ricky was still with Oakland. He stole 66 bases last year. Ricky with that high on-base average and the low batting average again. So for him, it's a game now of get on base somehow. And he is patient, still gets a lot of walks. 3-1 to Bernie Williams. And he pops that fastball foul out of play. 3-2 now.
Anytime a guy can throw you a 3-1 fastball, you know it's coming, and you still are a little tardy on it. I mean, he is really firing it, and he's got good movement on it.
You can see the frustration there on Bernie Williams, almost talking to himself up there.
Well, if you get a guy 3-1, you're sitting there looking dead red, and he throws it, and you can't catch up with it. You say, well, what am I going to do on this next one?
Now block at second. Well, that's what he did with it. Right center, Agbayani will have to go chase it. The carom shoots by him. Coming in to score is Knobloch, and Bernie Williams that time got it.
He definitely got that one. A little different pitch. He hits this one with his hands. The other one, he took a full swing at it. This time he just kind of rolls his hand hitting zone and drives it in the gap.
Ninth double of the year for Bernie.
Now watch this. He just uses his hands right there. You see his hands just go through the zone here, whereas he tried to drive the other one. This time he just used his hands. He didn't even rotate his hips. Just used his hands and drives it in the right center field.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a good approach even before two strikes.
Well, it is.
A guy like
when
this.
a guy's throwing harder, it doesn't mean you swing harder. It means you have to swing quicker.
Not Chili Davis. Chili Davis, who missed most of last year with an injury, finally this year really getting to show Yankee fans what he's all about. And now, Dave Wallace, the new Mets pitching coach, is going to go out and talk to Armando Benitez. The Mets bullpen is busy again. 7-2. The Mets are leading in the 8th inning. Next Sunday, as we see the Mets this week, we'll get a look at the Atlanta Braves leading the National League East. Will Clark is back. A lot of talent in that Baltimore club, just not a lot of wins right now. 2-0 to Chili Davis. The Orioles lost to the Phillies today and are now 21 wins and 34 losses. Chili Davis 1 for 3. Strike to the outside. 2-1.
John, you mentioned how tough it is, you know, in the interleague play now. Chili Davis is going on the road. They're going to play the Phillies and the Marlins for the next 6 days, and he's not going to be able to play because they do not have the DH, of course, in the National League.
And of course, what that means is the National League team plays its regular team,
right?
But the American League team is not able to.
No, Chili Davis will have to sit out, and they've talked about maybe late in the ball game he may pinch hit and play a little first base, but basically you're taking him out of the lineup.
Dennis Cook, the left-hander, up in the bullpen. Tino Martinez on deck. He would be next. It's a 3-1 count to Chili Davis. 3-2.
Now he was a little tardy on that fastball as well. Let's see if he makes any adjustment. Bernie was trying to drive the 3-1 pitch, and then he was just quick on the 3-2. Now watch Chili. You can see that ball is by him before he can get his body in motion.
Well, with a 5-run lead, he's going to throw him another fastball. Right? What do you think?
That's what Paul O'Neill thought too.
And he walks it. He got the fastball, but he walked it. And now Tino Martinez. And if not in Tino's mind, at least in these Yankee fans' minds, a moment for some sweet revenge. Last year when he was with the Orioles, after Bernie Williams had homered against him, and then he was ejected from the game, and a brawl started. Graham Lloyd, one of the first out there. I remember Darryl Strawberry got involved in that. I mean, it was an ugly scene out here at Yankee Stadium. Well, here's Tino Martinez a year later against Armando Benitez, and this has piqued the interest of these fans who have remained in Yankee Stadium. First ball swinging, pops it up. Roger Cedeno. Rather anticlimactic after all of that. Game summary: the Mets 7 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. The Yanks 2 runs, 6 hits. Al Leiter, one of his best starts of the year, 7 innings, only 1 run and 4 hits allowed. Piazza realizing a dream, hitting a home run at Yankee Stadium. A big night for Piazza. And Benny Agbayani, the pride of Honolulu, came into the big ballpark in the big city and looked particularly unawed. 2 hits and 3 RBIs against Roger Clemens, who was knocked out in the 3rd inning. In fact, the last hit by Agbayani.
Their run average, and they had 13 starts where they had pitched less than 5 innings. So you're right, they had not given them too many opportunities.
Their starting pitching earned run average was 15th out of 16 teams in the National League. But as Mike Piazza said before the game tonight, said, you know, there's only 107 games to go.
Right. I think that's the whole key here. And a lot of players and a lot of people are saying, well, you know, did the Mets actually panic? You know, with that many games left in the season.
Edgardo Alfonso, who is 0 for 4 in this game, 2-1 the count as he faces Dan Nolte in the 9th inning. And what Joe, of course, is talking about, the Mets firing half of the coaching staff after the game yesterday. Pitching coach Bob Apodaca, the bullpen coach Randy Niemann, and the hitting instructor Tom Robson. Robson, as you see Dave Wallace, the new pitching coach, on the bench next to Valentine, and he comes to that job from another job in the organization. He was the senior executive advisor on player personnel. Mickey Brantley, the hitting instructor, was the minor league hitting coordinator. It's a foul by Alfonso. 2-2 the count. And Al Jackson, the new bullpen coach, was the minor league pitching coordinator. Mets made all of these changes. There's Al Jackson, and he was an original Met.
Left-handed pitcher.
And he was a good one, but he suffered with those original teams because they weren't very good. He lost 20 games in 1962 and pitched extremely well. In fact, things went so bad for him that year. He was 8 wins and 19 losses and not scheduled to start again. And then whoever was supposed to go on the last day got hurt. And Casey Stengel went to him and said, Al, would you mind? And he went out and got beat to lose 20. Mets had 3 20-game losers that first year. And that's caught by Paul O'Neill. Alfonso is 0 for 5. John Olerud is coming up.
And Olerud, one of the best hitters in the National League. Take a look at this single he had earlier in the ball game. The key there is his balance, and I think when you talk about balance, we showed you the balance that Piazza has in his swing. Balance is a very key element, and that's what a pitcher tries to do, destroy your balance, get your upper body out over your front foot.
And that's a strike to Olerud. John Olerud talking about Jeter's stretch. And reach base in his last 72 starts. The key to that is he had one game he came on as a pinch hitter off the bench and made an out. I mean, he gets walks as he flies out there to Bernie Williams in center field. Olerud had walked 49 times coming into this game on top of a .333 batting average.
Well, he takes a lot of pitches, John. I mean, he works deep in the count most of the time.
I guess you'd have to say Tom Robson, the hitting instructor, did a pretty good job with Olerud. Right? Because, I mean, the Blue Jays virtually gave him to the Mets and paid his salary, in effect. And he's become one of the premier hitters in the National League. He hit 354 last year.
But he didn't save his job.
No. Mike Piazza, unable to save his job either. Center field. Bernie Williams going back on this one. He'll get it. And Piazza 2 for 5.
And he did help the Marlins win a championship.
He's got himself a World Series.
He's got a gold World Series ring.
And this guy become one of the top left-handed relievers in the National League. Dennis Cook to try and wrap this one up now. Scott Brocious, Shane Spencer, and Joe Girardi coming up. You know, one of the differences for the Yankees this year and last year, the Yankees are 8 games off the pace they set at this point a year ago. They were 40 and 13 after 53 games a year ago. But one of the differences has been the bottom of their order. Brocious hit down there last year. And he had a great year, his best year in the big leagues.
They got more production from Posada last year as well. He hit 2 home runs.
Well, this year, the 7, 8, 9 hitters, whoever they've been, the guys hitting in those slots have a cumulative batting average of 213. And, of course, that could change. Last year, Brocious had a hot start. Maybe they'll have a hot finish this year. But they also had Darryl Strawberry last year. And you said Posada was a much hotter hitter. Last year, they had Tim Raines.
I read in one of the columns here, one of the guys said they need to go back and acquire Tim Raines. Bring him back from the Oakland A's.
And that is ball 4 to Scott Brocious.
Well, if a couple of players get on, Jeter would get another shot.
Jeter would be due up 5th in this inning. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. That's regardless of the score, regardless of the venue. Don't make me say it again. Here is Shane Spencer. What time is it in Paris now? Joe keeps asking if somebody can bring him breakfast. I don't know. Did you have fun over there at the French Open?
Had a great time. In fact, congratulations to the Americans. Andre Agassi won the men's single, and Venus and Serena Williams won the doubles.
And if you don't believe Joe, stay tuned for SportsCenter. They'll have the highlights. Shane Spencer chasing the low slider. 0-2. Spencer has popped up, walked, and flied to right. Well, not many of the 56,294 who were here are here now. The Mets with a 4-run second and a 3-run third knocked Roger Clemens out very early in their bid to salvage one game of the 3 and end their 8-game losing streak. But not only is the mayor still here, he's expecting to catch a foul ball. Looks like to me, Joe. He is ready. Well, down goes Shane Spencer, out number 1.
It'll be interesting for me to read the paper tomorrow and see what Roger says about his performance, because again it appeared to me that he had pretty good stuff. He just wasn't locating as well as he would like, but he had a good velocity and he couldn't get the breaking ball down, but he had good velocity with his pitches.
Now here is Joe Girardi. Then an infield single, his double home run, and he's hit into a force play. 1 out, 1 on. The Mets go back home. I mean, this 3-game series at Yankee Stadium is technically a road trip. Not a real long road trip.
They were actually driving over from their ballpark, driving over here. And the buses together.
Tomorrow they play the Toronto Blue Jays of the American League in a 3-game series beginning tomorrow. And then the Boston Red Sox come to Shea next weekend. And they'll have a chance to actually help the Yankees a week from now. And that's sort of a weird aspect of interleague play.
They're also going to honor Ted Williams on that weekend at Shea Stadium.
Ted Williams, the greatest of all the great Red Sox hitters over the years. Good idea. 1 ball, 2 strikes. I read where Nelson Day, one of the owners of the Mets, is going to make available his private plane to bring the splendid Splinter up to New York. One ball and 2 strikes to Girardi. Knobloch is on deck. 1 out, 9th inning. And the strikeout. 2 down, and Chuck Knobloch. You know, another aspect, Joe, we saw Al Jackson out there in the bullpen earlier with the original Mets, with the firings of the coaches. You know, the Mets in the month of May had a 5.71 staff earned run average. The only time in the Mets history that they ever had a month with a worse ERA than that was 1962, in the first month of their history. If Knobloch can get aboard, Derek Jeter would get another shot at it here. And that's a ball on outside. Mike Piazza, a double starting a 4-run rally and a 2-run homer. And Benny Agbayani, 2 hits and 3 RBIs against Roger Clemens. 1 ball, 1 strike to Knobloch, who is 1 for 4. Mike Piazza, let that be a lesson to catchers around baseball. Agreed to wear mask can, and nothing but good things happen for the rest of the night for him. And for our viewers, putting it right down there behind the batter. Center field, McRae makes the catch, and Jeter will not get that extra chance. He has been kept off the bases tonight. The Mets' 8-game losing streak is over. Roger Clemens' 20-game winning streak is over. And the Mets have secured a victory here for their holdover manager and their new coaching staff. The Mets 7, the Yankees 2, with still 106 games to go. Bobby Bonilla, a big hit, and Piazza took Clemens deep in a very early exit for the Rocket. 7-2, the Mets win it. John Miller for Joe Morgan. Stay tuned for Sports Center coming up next. This has been a presentation of ESPN.
$1 million man Mike Piazza making his Mets spring training debut on the same day that the Rocket launches in pinstripes. Bruce Beck is with the Yankees in Tampa. He has more.
Roger Clemens, who is on his way to becoming a baseball legend, arrived at Legends Field today in Tampa to join his new teammates, the New York Yankees. The 5-time Cy Young Award winner hopes this trade is his last and this journey yields his first world championship.
Each year that I am at home and I see these guys celebrating, that's the thing I remember the most about when I have a chance to be in a clubhouse when they have an old-timers game. And the guys are still living, and the guys who played on world championship teams, the friendships carries through. And you can't replace that.
It's almost 80 years since Babe Ruth was traded to the Yankees. And now it's Clemens, the ultimate dagger to the hearts of Red Sox fans.
I had numerous phone calls from Bostonians that said that they can't say the damn Yankees no more and that they're Yankee fans now. So they hated to say it, but they're Yankee fans. So
I think he's finally ready for this change in his career and this challenge. This is the biggest challenge I think he's ever had in his career. And maybe a couple years ago or earlier in his career, he wanted no part of New York. I think now he's finally ready and he realizes what it's all about.
I definitely met my match with Mr. Steinbrenner. Somebody wants to win is bad.
Thank you. This is Roger Clemens.
Mike Piazza making his Mets spring training debut, leading the list of new talent from top to bottom.
You can put together, great teams on paper, and it's going to take everybody, number one, to stay healthy, to be productive, and to contribute.
In 5 days, and